We should be live. I think we are live.
Niggas ain't really there, even eat lunch.
We live. Let me double check the audio. Give me a sec, guys. All right, let me double check the audio. Make sure we're good.
Ain't really there, even eat lunch.
Let me double. All right, so audio looks good. We are live across the globe. So I want to thank everybody for watching the replay. For those who are live, I want to thank you. And today we're going to go over FL Studio mixing. Basically, we're going to use only stock plugins to mix in FL Studio. Now, I made a controversial tweet apparently on Twitter, and let me pull up my Twitter actually, and pull up the tweet real quick. I don't know why it's so controversial what I said, but I don't know. I think people are just looking for anything to get mad at. But the reason I'm making this live stream is because you guys keep asking me to show you how to mix with FL Studio. The reason I don't do it as much is because you have to do a lot with the stock plugins to make them sound like other plugins, and it's just easier to use other plugins. So giving you guys a real answer, sometimes, you know, you might have to create a patcher just to do like a mid-side EQ, and it's like, you don't want to have to do that every single time. You want a mid-side EQ. So let me pull up this tweet. So apparently this got a lot of reach. 165, where is it at? I lost it that fast. Where'd it go? Hold on, my screen refreshed on me. Here it is. Okay, so apparently this is the tweet that set off a ton of producers for some reason. I still have no idea why. I said, if you have to mix your beat to sound good, you're using the wrong sounds. And people had everything under the sun to say about me, the brand, how that's wrong. I'm like, you could have your opinion, but you know, this is kind of like a principle of audio engineering: is garbage in, garbage out. So what you're trying to, for example, here's the nuance of what I said. If you have to mix your beat to sound good, okay, and I said you're using the wrong sounds, meaning mixing should make your song sound better. Mixing shouldn't make your song sound good. Your song should be good regardless of mixing. And I'll show you guys what I mean by that. So that's the first principle. Before we even get into plugins and everything, I want to thank everybody here. Two Best is here. We got Apostle here. We got, you said show the screen. We're about to show the screen in a sec. Run It Up says, yo, this lit man, never seen some ish like this that don't charge. Right, I'm on a spree of masterclasses, as you guys can see. We have over 80 courses at busyworksbeats.com/premium. And the only way I can really show you how deep my courses go is to show you how deep I train. This is not scripted. I don't have a script. So I just want to show you guys how much knowledge you can gain in a short amount of time. So it's kind of like, you know, those samplers they give you at the mall where it's like, try my chicken, you know, and then I tried and I love it and I go buy some. It's the same thing here. I just want you guys to understand how deep the rabbit hole goes. Ricardo says, is there a way to watch the other tutorial lives? The other tutorial lives. My live streams should be archived or like cataloged, whatever the word is. They should be saved on the youtube.com/busyworksbeats. I don't know what you mean by watch the other tutorials live. I'm not sure what you mean. Hey game, my production has improved thanks to you. Shout out to all the way from South Africa. All right, Farlos is here. Carabo's here. The Architect here. We're gonna get straight to it. I'm just saying what's up. Lively Cuts is here. T is here. Hey bro, do you do music reviews? We're gonna do that later today. Yes, and we'll do it from Discord. Ninja says, yo, I just started making beats not too long back, just as a side hustle. Where do I sell beats without paying for selling them? You're gonna have to pick a platform that pays. If you want to just throw them up, you can put them on BeatStars. I think they have a free plan. But when you want to get serious about it, you want to own your stuff, and I recommend Shopify. I have a whole course about it. busyworksbeats.com/premium. Is Pro Tools worth it? They have a free version. The free version of Pro Tools is worth it. Jazzy Lamel says, hey, what up? Salu Lami from South Africa. All right, so without further ado, I just wanted to invite everybody in, share with a friend, because I will give you guys gems. Now the first principle though, I want to be clear about what I'm saying here, guys. The first principle is you shouldn't have to mix a good sounding song to sound good. All right, a song sounds good whether you throw a mix on it, whether you don't. Okay, so like my vocals recording, when we get to the vocal part of this, we're going to cover beat mixing, vocal mixing, R&B. We're going to cover hip hop and like a sample beat. Okay. And you'll realize very quickly, like the raw recording is good. You don't need to do stuff to it. We're just trying to do like creative stuff to it. Okay. Without further ado, here's without the effects. So this is the beat without adding anything except for a filter on the sample. So this is, so it sounds, my point is it's going to sound good regardless of what we do to it. Whoops.
Yeah. Slap, 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 slap. Yeah. Bring it back, 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 back. What you know about me? What you know about me? When it come my line, when it call the what you know about me?
All right, now let's turn the mixing on.
Steady calling my phone, cause a nigga going up, he on, going higher than the moon.
Now, what changed? You know, if you guys listen closely, you probably were like, what even changed? We added a little mastering, but what I'm saying to you guys is you shouldn't have to do a bunch of stuff to make your song sound cohesive. It should sound cohesive. Unless you're like a sound designer designing from absolute scratch, then I can see where mixing becomes a thing because you're starting with an extremely raw material. That usually rock and people who record, they deal with more raw material. But even still, when you're a good recording engineer, you usually get the sound you want from the actual microphones. So mixing is not the thing that solves all. And a lot of mixing engineers, it's hard to explain to beginners because beginners think you need 1,000 plugins. And if you look at real sessions, sometimes they might have 1 or 2 plugins across, you know, the instruments. It's because you don't need to tweak anything. Like even with the mixing, this has 1 EQ, which it just cut out like small frequencies on the vocal. Let me see how many plugins we even used on here. We used a compressor. Okay, so do some expansion on the 808. We did a filter, which is kind of, it's not mixing, it's more production. We added a reverb. Okay, another EQ just for shaping the tone. Kickstart, again, a production thing. And then what is this? Went over that one. So pretty much this didn't need mixing. Okay. Now the master channel had a standard clip for adding some punch, MD4 for controlling the dynamics, gold clip for adding more crunch, and then we did some expansion there, some expansion. So, and I want to make a correction before we get further, is I conflated, pardon me, the words upward compression with expansion before. There is a difference. Expansion takes the tops of the signal and makes them taller. Upward compression takes the bottom part of the signal and turns it up. So they're 2 different concepts. I mixed them up when I was talking before. I just want to clear that up. So first principle, okay, guys, you shouldn't need plugins to make your song better. If you do, you know, you might need to go back to the actual arrangement. Or I should say, make it sound good, not better. Your song should sound good whether you have a mix on it or not. So now you understand that principle. Let's talk about soloing stuff. So I'm going to take off all these plugins. We're going to leave, the only thing we're going to leave on is the filter over the sample and the pumping effect with Kickstart. All right, so let's start with just thinking about mixing. So when you're thinking about mixing, the question is not how to level. Look at my faders, guys. There's nothing really turned up and down, okay? A lot of this stuff should be managed at the channel rack level, unless you're mixing somebody else's stuff. Now, do you guys feel like I'm being too simple? You could be honest. This is the truth, though. What up, Faye? Eek is here. How to use FL Studio for live DJ? I've never used it for live anything. You said you feel like the original was better. Hado, it says, did you know you give away almost all your rights of your music when you use Suno? We're not talking about Suno right now, but I mean, that's not how AI music works. Sing Along is here. What up? Robs is here. All right. So the first lesson is the first lesson. Here's what I learned from medicine when I was studying pre-med. It's the Hippocratic Oath. And it says, first, do no harm. So your first goal in mixing is to not ruin whatever exists. Okay. First, do no harm. Don't add a plugin just because you feel like it needs an EQ. Like, what is your objective? Now, the thing is, when you're mixing other people's stuff, you can't go to the source of that thing and just change it. When you're a producer, you can go to the source. So you have a little more control. And I'll just give you guys a mindset stuff before we get into the tactics. The mindset of a mixing engineer is whenever you start adding compression and harmonics to a sound, saturation, when you add that aggression to a sound, you're changing the fundamental sound. You're changing it into a different waveform. And it's basically a brand new sound. So now you have to fit this brand new sound in a mix. And that's why you guys find it hard sometimes, especially with vocals, when you start compressing and adding all the stuff to it, it becomes a completely different instrument than what you started with. And it makes it harder to fit in because it was never built to fit into your mix. So that's a principle you guys just got to understand is first, do no harm. Okay, so now you guys have built, bang that into your head. Let's talk about adding some girth to the 808. All right, so you could do this with Fruity Limiter. We're gonna open up Fruity Limiter. So I usually, when I'm doing hip hop, I usually start bottom up. So I'm dealing with the bass first, because when you deal with the bass first, when you add what are called upper harmonics, you are adding more higher frequencies. So I'd rather start with the lowest frequencies, get the higher frequencies in there, and then deal with the high frequencies, because now you're literally dealing with more frequencies. If you do it the opposite way, I'm not telling you what's wrong or right, but if you do kind of a top-down mixing where you deal with the high frequencies first, by the time you get to the bass, you could be, you might need saturation, but because it sounds so full already, you're not going to do it, and it kind of prevents you from doing some moves with the bass. I found that usually speaking for hip hop, I'm starting with the bass and the drums. All right, so here's the plugin you want to go for this technique. It's called Fruity Limiter. Now you can also use Fruity Compressor, but we're going to use Fruity Limiter. So let's solo what we're actually doing. I showed you guys this in the Southside video that I made. So as many people tell me that Southside doesn't use this, I'm sure a mixing engineer that Southside deals with, or the sound designer himself, does this. It's called expansion. Okay, so what we're going to do is turn the ceiling up. So the pointy part of the 808, that's the part that catches the ear. The ear needs pointy information, or else it just kind of doesn't pay attention to it. Okay, so what we're going to do is turn the ceiling up. This prevents the compressor from squashing it down. If I turn the ceiling down, it'll start compressing the signal. So the ceiling is the max volume something can be inside of Fruity Limiter. So all we want to do here is just turn the ceiling up. Now here's a little secret people don't talk about, the saturation knob. You can turn this to the left and make your 808s more aggressive. Now, I've only found this useful on drums most of the time, not 808s, but you guys can try it. So basically pull your saturation to the left, and it adds like this boxy. Now it's hard to hear if you don't drive the signal, so we're gonna turn the gain into the limiter. So now you're gonna hear more of that saturated sound. So here's before. So notice the tone though. Very soft tone, but it has high frequencies in it. Now here's after. It's a very aggressive tone, more bubbly and distorted. That's the saturation knob. Again, if you want to drive it harder, pull the gain up. So that depends on the genre and the aggression on the genre. I don't use it as much anymore, but for those who use FL Studio stock plugins to mix, you can use that technique. The technique I want to show you guys though is expansion. So we're going to turn the ceiling to the right. Most of you were taught compression means to lower the volume of something, and you have to, there's compression. Think of it this way. You can compress up and you can compress down. Okay, think of it that way. So instead of pulling the volume down, we're actually going to turn the ratio to the left. Not every compressor has ratios below 1:1. So you have to have a specific compressor that even has this setting. So I think Waves has one called RComp. FL Studio has one called Fruity Limiter. And you could also do this in the Fruity Compressor. We're going to pull the ratio to the left. So actually, instead of turning the volume down, if I turn this to the right, when you move the threshold, this is basically at what point do we want to start turning the volume down. Okay. Okay, so that's the threshold. It just determines where we start controlling the volume. The ratio is pretty much how fast or how aggressive the compressor works. We can get more granular about, for every 4 dB you go above the threshold, you take out 1 dB. That doesn't make any sense in context of making music. You're not measuring dB in your head. Okay, guys. So yeah, that's a cool technical definition for compression. But when you're actually doing compression, you're not thinking, okay, for every 4 dB above this line, I'm taking out 1 dB. So if it's 16 dB above, then I'm taking out 4 dB. We're not thinking like that. Okay, we're just going based off of what it is doing. So a compressor, once you go above that threshold, the ratio determines like how aggressive it turns the volume down. Okay. Now, instead of doing normal compression, which is to the right, I don't know if you guys can see it because it's grayed out, we're going to pull the ratio to the left. So when you pull it to the left, any sound that goes above the threshold does not get turned down, it gets turned up. So what we're doing essentially is exaggerating these pointy parts of the audio. Now I'll exaggerate it for the video. But you see these little, it might be hard to see, so let me make this, these little triangles on the screen, that's the volume being increased. Okay, so the way we can control how much volume is being increased is we can mess with the threshold or we can mess with the ratio. The lower the ratio you add, like the further to the left you go, the more it's going to be spiky sounding. So I'm going to exaggerate. So here it's almost like adding another kick over top the 808. And you can hear it's like boom, 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 like it's jumping out at you. Sometimes we don't want that much jumpage. I know it's not a word. We just don't want the volume to jump that much because that's really aggressive. So you got to find that sweet spot. Like here is this too aggressive. It's like, okay. So we're going to find somewhere in the middle. Now, this is a small detail, but basically if you look closely at the white line, when we boost the volume, there's a little, what they call jitter. Like this little, like jagged edge here. That's called jitter. Okay, so what we want to do is turn up what's called the sustain. So sustain basically smooths out that jittery tail end. Hold on, I think I messed up the view here. Hold up, guys. So now if we zoom in, let me pause this. How do you pause it? Okay, so now if we zoom in, we don't see that jagged line that we saw before. So the sustain basically smooths out that jagged line. Now, one more thing about expansion is we want to set what's called a release time. So essentially we're having the 808 hit, we're turning up the volume for a certain amount of time. So the release time is telling us for how long do we want to turn up the volume. Now I could go into the weeds about how long 200 milliseconds is, but basically speaking, anything below 100 milliseconds is so fast that you might not be able to detect it with your ear. Once you get to 100 milliseconds and above, you can start detecting a time to it. Okay, so pretty much if you want this to be undetectable, keep it below 100 milliseconds. You can read the value in the top left panel. If you want this to be audible, meaning you want the kick to be like, instead of doo, 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 you want it to be like boom, 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 like that, then you would pull up your release time longer so that it has more of a body of a sound. Let's open this up. Now again, you're not going to hear this with this 808 because we're not getting so granular with it. But if I turn the ratio up and up the threshold, it's going to be a good example. Let me show you guys the actual waveform because it will make a lot more sense as to what we're doing for those who might not be able to hear this. So let's go before the limiter and after. Here's before. And now here's after. Now what I'm going to do with this sound here is exaggerate the release tail and the threshold. So it holds the 808. So this is really, when you guys get into sound design, you'll understand this principle a little bit more. So to the left was our original 808. Just, look at the concave curvature. It's very looks like a nose. Okay. It just goes down like a ski slope. Okay. It goes down. Now, when we started adding the expansion, it does not go down as linearly. If you look at the beginning of the sound, it goes up. It's like this little circular area. Then it goes down. Okay. Whereas before, this transient starts at the top of this, the mountain, and it goes down. Once you start adding expansion, we go up high to the mountain. Okay. We're actually going higher than where we started. Then we're going up to the hilltop and then we're going down. It's like when you build up to the top of a roller coaster. The first thing, we start at the top, the peak of the roller coaster, we go down. After expansion, you are slowly going to the top and then you go down the roller coaster. So it's adding a little curvature and a little body to what we call the transient or the beginning portion of a sound. So that's what expansion does. It just basically exaggerates that feature of a sound. You can add more body to a sound, but it also makes the louder parts of the sound louder. Okay, so that's a technique. I don't want to get too deep into like the sound design of it, but that's what I do all the time to create like it makes it feel like it's on top of the beat and it can breathe and it adds dynamic. So that's why I love Fruity Limiter for the, personally Logic Pro has the best expander in my opinion, but this is a, decent way to go about it too. So again, pull that ratio to the left. And it just makes that 808 just poke out the mix just a little bit. So a subtle detail, but that's what's missing from a lot of guys' mix is the dynamic. So when you go to mix, you're going to be adding compression, doing all this stuff. And you're like, why does my mix sound flat? It's because you forgot about dynamics. And dynamics basically just means you need to add more pointy stuff back to your audio. That's basically what it means. So now we got the 808 situated. Let's go to our drums. I don't think we grouped the drums on this. So I didn't mix the clap. The clap is a Roland TR 808 clap. There's nothing to mix. What is there to mix? Nothing. It's a perfect clap. Okay. The hi-hat, same deal. Nothing to mix. The hi-hat is perfect. Only thing I did here was turn it down in the channel rack. So if you guys are going to level, what people call leveling your beats and everything, what I recommend you guys do, here's another pro tip that's super easy and basic, is when you go to produce your track and go to the mixing stage, turn up your headphones. And the reason you want to turn up your headphones is because that snare that is loud will be like, your ear's going to, whatever the word is, flinch. I can't think of the right word, quench up, but that doesn't make sense. Your ear will be like, wow, that's too loud. And you're going to naturally turn it down. So when you turn your headphones up at the beginning of your mix, you're naturally going to start turning stuff down because it's just way too loud. So that was one of the tricks I learned when I had my commercial studio. And I had this, I still do have these speakers, but you don't have to buy all this expensive gear to kind of get started with your mix. So what I'll do here is I'll turn up my headphones, and anything that's aggressively loud and too resonant and too harsh, I'll turn down.
Yeah. Slap, 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 slap. Yeah. Bring it back.
Simple as that. I just turn stuff up so that I can turn stuff down. All right, so you want to mix not super quiet. When you're mastering, you could turn the volume down. But when you're mixing, you want to be able to feel the vibe. You don't just want it to be loud. When people mix with their stuff super quiet, that's because they want to make sure they're actually hearing the dynamic they're hearing, and they want to make sure there's a lot about it. The Fletcher-Munson curve, they want to make sure like the bass that we hear is actually audible at low levels. Different reasons why you might mix at low volumes. I recommend mixing somewhere in between. I don't mix all the way at the bottom, because then you're not going to be able to feel your track anymore, and you kind of lose that connection between production and mixing. So there's no rule for it. I'm just telling you guys, when people talk about lowering your monitoring, that's usually so that the bass translates, and usually so that stuff can be as loud as it can be, so that you can actually hear the staging of the sounds. I just think that most people don't need their beats and songs to be super loud all of the time. I think that's not mandatory.
Yeah.
All right, so now we have everything situated. We got the 808.
Yeah.
What else do we need to mix? The drums don't need to be mixed.
Slap, 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 slap.
So if I turn off this reverb, so you have to think in the mind of the producer. The producer was me, and we had this original sample. Let me pull up the original drums here. See if I could. Let me turn off the filter. So here were the original drums, very 80s disco funk. And those drums had reverb on it. So when I'm going into our mix in the production stage with this dry clap, like this clap here, it's dry. It doesn't have that sound to it. So a lot of the sounds, to make them feel 80s, I had to send them to a reverb. You don't need this specific reverb. This is just the one we used, but we used Valhalla Vintage Verb on this one. Again, this is an FL Studio mixing, so I'm going to show you guys, you don't need this plugin. So the main thing you need to understand though is this is what they call hall reverb. And a hall reverb is like a big space. So imagine going into an empty church, you clap your hands. One of the churches that has like wood floors, you clap your hands and it's like, right? The sound goes everywhere. Now, if you go into a gymnasium, same thing. A basketball court, clap your hands. But if you go into a closet and you clap your hands, it's going to be like, it's because it's a smaller room and you have less reflections coming back to your ear. Okay, so I don't have time to explain everything about everything because it will eat up too much time. But basically, bigger spaces give you that sound. Smaller spaces give you a sense of dimension. Like it just feels like you're in a space. Okay, so we have pretty much 3 styles of reverb. Small room reverbs, you have medium-sized rooms, and then you have those rooms. Okay, so I had to add that to the instruments to make them feel like they were a part of this sample, even though they weren't.
Yeah.
So let's look at an alternative. Am I saying this will be perfectly alternative? No. Okay, so don't take this as like gospel. But one plugin that people overlook is the Fruity Convolver. So Fruity Convolver, let me tell you guys why this is important. You can basically get the sound of super high quality reverbs in Fruity Convolver. And the way you do this is basically, this is like a sampler, but for reverbs. So how do they create reverbs? Most of the time, they have some instrument that they clap. Like I think it has they have this thing that they go in a big room, and it sounds like white noise going through a room. And this is basically a recording of somebody in a church, for example. And they just have a mic that records all this. A Fruity Convolver multiplies the signal times this recording. So you're blending these two things together to create a space, or the perception of a space. So if I send my vocals over to this channel, for example, check, it now sounds like I'm in that space even though I'm not. And you can get really high quality impulse responses. Okay, so you don't always have to use the stock stuff. You can go on the internet and find impulse responses. So if you just want to avoid reverb plugins, like, I mean, I have an $800 reverb plugin called Altiverb, or $700, whatever it costs. And it's basically just a bunch of impulse responses, okay, from different units and gear. Now, there are different reverb models. I don't want to get into the weeds of things, but there are other ways to come up with reverb too, which is to basically create a series of delays and diffuse them using chorusing and detuning to simulate a room. So they're basically deconstructing this sample digitally, and that is how digital reverbs are created, okay? So we're not going to get into the weeds because it goes into science I can't even articulate to you guys, especially like acoustic audio. Anyway, you guys want to stack up impulse responses. So let's load up an impulse response. I think I have some here. Let me load up. Let's see here. Impulse responses. Okay, so you want to find some impulse responses. I think there's one called Liquid Sonics from the Bricasti M7. Looks like I have some more from the Lexicon PCM. And I also did responses of my own home. So let's try my own impulse responses. Let's do the garage. So I think, funny enough, the garage, I think my son was making noise. Let me see. So this was the garage before we had stuff in it. So what we need to do is make an impact sound. Just like that. That's just me clapping my hands. Now we need to edit this because in the beginning it has some stuff we don't want. So let's edit this. We need to, let me just zoom in. And we need to, is there a snap to grid? Yeah, let's go snap to grid, snap to zero crossings. So you guys could do this at home is what I'm saying. You could just record yourself clapping in any environment, whether it's a closet, garage, outside. All right, so now let's grab this and we're gonna drag it back into Fruity Convolver. So all we hear is that clap. So this dry knob is basically saying how much of the original signal do we want in this processing of the sound? We want 0. And the reason is whatever I send to this reverb, I'm basically sending a duplicate to. So for example, my microphone, I'm going to send a duplicate by clicking on my mic and then left clicking this up arrow at the bottom here. So now I'm sending a duplicate of my vocals. Okay. And I can adjust the volume of the duplicate. So I'm sending a complete copy of my vocal that you guys hear now over to my reverb channel. So this is a whole separate thing. It's duplicated. This is called a send. Okay, so I'm left clicking to up the amount that I send to this space. So now as I increase the amount, it sounds like I'm talking in my garage. So like I said before, the way we do this is we are basically multiplying the signal times the sample. And that's how you get convolution from what I understand. All right, so that is how you can create really cool, unique melodies in different spaces just by finding impulse responses online, sampling some impulse responses, going to different places and doing it yourself. You can do it straight on your phone too. That's how I did it. So what I'm saying here is, guys, you can get basically the equivalent of having a real Bricasti M7. Okay, so let's go to, what was it, documents, and let's go to impulse responses. Where'd the folder go? Impulse responses. Let's go to the Bricasti M7. This is like a multi-$1,000 reverb unit. We're going to go to the hall the hall settings. Let's go to a large hall. Now they have different settings, and I don't want to get, boring with you guys, but some files are like 4 recordings. Some files are 2 recordings. So just understand that when you download impulse responses, they have different file types if you ever get errors. But long story short, you should be fine with just wave. There's the head, which is the impact sound, the part. Okay, so if I load this head sample up, it's going to be a short part. Okay, this is not the entire signal. So we have to load up what's called the tail. The tail is the extended sound. Okay, so again, we're going to keep this wet level as it is. And now I'm going to send my vocals over to this Bricasti. And now I have a multi-$1,000 reverb just like that. And it sounds supreme. Okay, so you don't need to buy a bunch of reverb plugins if you guys are trying to get into a better reverb sound, is my point here. Okay, so now that we have this, we need to find some kind of plate reverb from the 80s. There are different styles of reverbs. I'm not going to get into it. You have spring reverbs. They add like that Griselda sound. You have plate reverbs used in like the 80s and on vocals and drums. You have room reverbs, which simulate a space. So anytime you hear people live or something like that, the reason it sounds live is because it has dimension to it. And that's what room reverbs are for. And hall reverbs are for those ambient, long tail, like sounds. Okay, so there's also nonlinear reverbs. We don't need to get into everything about everything here. But basically, these are just different samples of a sound decaying over time. So let's do a London plate, and we're going to do the tail. And like I said, plates are good for vocals as well as drums. So now you guys can hear the plate, and I can turn it up and down. So each reverb gives you a different profile of sound. Okay, we're not going to go too deep into it, but I'm going to use this one for the mix instead of the Valhalla. So let's hear the difference though. Valhalla has a long tail. So that's a long hall reverb, okay? Whereas this Fruity Convolver, it fades faster. So I need to actually load up a bigger space if I want to have a similar sound. So that's where hall reverbs come into play. So let's do a large hall. One of my favorites is like one of these concert halls. And then now I have a longer tail. Now it's still not as long as that digital. You can technically, what is this? You can stretch the sample. So let's stretch it. So this is artificial and it makes the sample longer. Okay, so you could try that, but it's probably best we just load up a bigger environment. Okay, so let's do, I don't know which one's the biggest one. I think they had an ambient folder. Let's do ambience instead of, okay, let's do large, tall. So now this one sounds even smaller. So that one sounds smaller. Check, check. So basically the difference is basically how long it takes for the sound to decay. Okay, that's basically the difference, because again, in real life, there's no decay curvature on a church. You just record the church and it is what it is. Okay, but digital reverbs, you have this decay curvature. It just means how long does the reverb take to fade. Okay.
Yeah.
So subtle detail.
Slap, 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 slap. Yeah.
I'm going to exaggerate the reverb.
Bring it back, 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 back. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when they call the line. What you know about me? What you know about me?
All right, so let's work on, I'm just showing you little things because to teach you everything about mixing will literally take forever. I'm showing you guys real world, when do you need to apply stuff. So now let's move over to this vocal section here. The vocals, all we did here was because the original got a little dense on the side, it just got a little too heavy.
What you know about me? About me. What you know about me? About me. Y'all don't. When you call my line. When I call decline. Y'all don't. What you know about me? About me. What you know about me? About me. Y'all don't. When you call my line. When I call.
So there's a little bit of on the side image. So the difference, let me just teach you guys a quick lesson. Are you guys vibing with this masterclass? Is this vibing with you? You're learning stuff? Give me a 1 out of 10. 1 to 10. What are you guys feeling so far? You can be honest. I'll heat it up if you need me to, but we're covering the basics right now. I just want to keep a temperature check. What up? Afwa is here. Bipolar is here. We got Face Ski is here. We got Ahmed in here. Ahmed. We got El Gecko Wave. Shout out to you. Shakur is here. We got Tio Violet in here. Jayon Baby is here. Or Jayon. Not Jayon. Jayon. Taser is here. We got To Those Who Have Trouble Understanding and Emulating. Keep Grinding. Shout out to you. You said warmth. How do you balance presence versus warmth? Okay, well, remind me. We'll get into that. We're not there yet. Sonic is here. Moritz. I'm going to write that down. Warmth versus presence. Now, there is a balance, though, but I'll show you guys what people mean by warmth. Funny enough, we're about to talk about warmth right now, actually. Dead Boy Jovi is here. What up? Jacob is here. You said you thought I was anti-FL? No, I just think FL has room to improve. All right, we're at a 9. Okay, we're at 8 to 9-ish. Okay, somewhere around 80%. Let's heat it up a little bit for you guys. So now we're getting into a more advanced concept here where we're going to use Patcher. So by default, FL Studio does not come with a mid-side EQ currently. If you're watching this in the future, maybe they will have one. So I had to use this plugin called FabFilter. Now, I have to demonstrate and teach you guys what mid versus side is. So before I start talking about this, let's demonstrate this really quickly. Okay, so let's create a tone. And here's the tone. Let's just add a note. We don't need to get fancy here. All right, now if I duplicate the sound and add this in, it becomes double the volume. That's because the sound wave is stacking up on itself in every dimension: time, pitch, and phase. Okay, so it means basically +1 meets +1. Now what happens if I take this 3x OSC and invert the oscillation? We don't get any signal because now inverting means to flip. So now I'm taking the sine wave and I'm flipping it upside down. So now we have +1 -1, and +1 -1 is 0. Because these are the same exact sound at the same exact volume at the same exact everything. Nothing's different about them except for me flipping the phase. Now, what happens if I pan one of these oscillators to the left and one to the right? What do you guys think in the chat? If I pan one of these oscillators, for those who already saw this magic trick, don't say anything. Don't spoil it. But for the people who have never seen this concept before, I'm panning one sound and the exact twin of the sound, the same copy, and we're going to pan it to the right. So what do you guys think will happen? You say, maybe you're a little bit behind in the chat. But yeah, what we just did, the -1 +1, is called phase cancellation. All right, so maybe the chat's a little bit behind. You said they'll balance. Interesting. All right, so what will happen, because my chat might be a little delayed, so I got to keep moving. I don't want to stay stuck on the chat. But thank you, chat, for being here. So if we pan one sound, that's, the sound, and then pan the exact same sound, doing the exact same stuff to the left, one on the left, one on the right, that actually our brain creates mono. So let me just demonstrate this. So here's the left sound. Here's the right sound. If you combine these two, again, perfectly the same exact sound, your brain generates this thing we call middle. So the question is, what is stereo? Stereo is a full body. Mono means one. Okay, so the way we create difference, whenever you talk about side, you're talking about the difference between the signals. These signals are the same exact signal, so they create what we call the middle, okay? So the middle, or the center image, that's why I stopped using mono as much. What I mean is the middle of the signal, and the side of the signal is the difference between the two. Now, if I go to oscillator B in this case, and I turn the pitch just slightly up, even just a little hair, and now we can feel the stereo image thing happening. And that's because there's a difference between that thing pan to the left and the thing pan to the right. And our ear thinks the difference is what we call the side image. So that's where width comes from, is the difference between the left and the right. Okay. So now that you guys understand that, now we can talk about mid-side EQ. So here's our vocal. Let's go back to the song.
What you know about me? About me? What you know about me? About me? Y'all don't.
Now, most people try to, address issues with their recordings or whatever the sound is by EQing everything. So, for example, I could just technically just cut out here, like there's a boomy area.
What you know about me? About me? What you know?
Somewhere around 200, it's a little boomy. I could technically just pull this down. The issue, however, is that we're also pulling down the middle signal. So I think Mixbus TV said it in a different way. Basically, and I don't want to misquote him, so this is kind of my understanding, is basically when you have the same sound on the left and the right speaker, they're producing the same energy out each speaker. So now you're getting double the energy. Whereas if there was a different sound on the left and a different sound on the right, you're not getting that same energy sent to you. Okay, so I may be misquoting what Mixbus TV said, forgive me. But that's how I understand thinking about mid-side. So basically the middle is the strongest signal. The sides are a little bit weaker because, again, they're not equal on the left and the right. So you only have one thing doing that specific unique thing. So when you cut using a general EQ like this, you're cutting both the side and the middle. So you're actually making the signal weaker.
What you know about me? About me? What you know about me? About me?
Now, when people say warmth, they actually are referring to the frequencies from about 100 to about 300 hertz. This is what creates that enveloping tone.
What you know about me? About me? What you know about me? About me?
Now, if I just cut this completely,
What you know about me? About me? What you know about
it might fit in the mix, but it feels thin.
me? About me? What you know about me? About me? Y'all don't know. When you call my line, when they call decline, y'all don't know. What you know about me?
See how that warmth is needed for that extra little bit of density? So instead of cutting your entire signal, what you can actually do is create what's called a mid-side EQ. Bars. Okay, so now in order to do this in FL Studio, we have to open up Patcher. Here's where we're going to get a little advanced, so bear with me for the beginners out there. Over time, you will get practice with this. So let's open up Patcher, and we're just going to right-click and add a plugin. So Patcher essentially lets us create our own signal flow back to FL Studio. So I'm just going to show you the step-by-step because there's too much to explain about Patcher. Let's add a plugin here. You need a very specific plugin to create the mid signal versus the side signal. It's called Fruity Stereo Shaper. We're going to double click in here and we're going to right click on where it says presets, go to mixing and go to mid A side splitter. Now this number that you guys see in this red box, this represents the channel that the stereo signal will be sent to. So by default, all you're going to hear is mono, or the middle, I should say middle. So if I turn the plugin off, and if I turn it back on, all the width is gone. So what we have to do is actually activate the stereo or the side path. Okay, so let's right click and then go to outputs, go to audio, go to send to. Now that send to is this number here. So we're sending the difference again between the left and the right ear to this aux, which is number 2. So now we could do unique stuff. So let's say I want to add an EQ. I could just right click this node, go to insert plugin, and let's add a Fruity Parametric EQ2. Now to complete a signal flow, we need to make the cables connect. So let's take this cable and pull it back to FL Studio. So the signal goes from FL Studio. It splits the signal into a middle and a side image. We're taking the middle signal, it goes straight back into FL Studio. We're taking the side image and we're running it through Parametric EQ2. Okay, so that's what's happening technically. So let's call this side EQ. Now, when you have a side EQ, you're gonna open it up and you're gonna be like, where's my signal? Now, if you adjust stuff, you'll be able to hear it. But you're like, where's the stuff that jumps around? It's because in Parametric EQ2, you have to go to options, go to monitor input, and then switch it to side mode. So now you can see the side information. So this is only the difference. So for example, if I mute, you could right click these little circle things to mute it. So now we should only be able to hear the side image. And this is where a lot of the mud in your mixes exists. It's on the side, the difference between the two signals. This is usually where a lot of that hidden mud exists, from reverbs to vocals having a boominess to it, like, wide sounds. Every plugin wants to be wide nowadays. So a lot of that kind of junk in your sound is it's on the side most of the time. So now let's target that frequency that just creates that kind of muddy tone. This tone here. And let's just pull it down a bit on the side. Okay, so we're only affecting the side image. And we're going to pull it down until it sounds less muddy. There's no magical amount. You just want to pull it down until the mud is like not there. For these vocals, because my vocal is very deep, so I naturally have that frequency. So now if I solo the middle signal, we still have that frequency. Let's add in the side. Now let's compare. It's very subtle on this vocal because it's not super dramatic. But now let's make that same EQ cut at 250 hertz. I'm going to copy the value here so that this is matching. So let's move our frequency to 250. 250, boom. And then let's paste that value in. So it's literally the same cut. Let me make sure it's the same curvature because I forget how wide. I'm pretty sure it's the same curvature. So now let's make a cut using the general EQ that most people would do. All right, now let's switch off that for our patcher. And you guys will get the project files for free. If you go to busyworksbeats.com, excuse me, busyworksbeats.com/black-bonus, you guys will get these project files for free to practice. So the main thing here, I'm going to solo the vocal so you can really hear it, but the second time around, you heard more warmth in the middle. And that's because we didn't EQ the entire signal. We only EQ'd the side image, okay? So we're preserving that density of my voice. I have a naturally low voice. If I EQ out my low end, I sound like this, for example. This is what I sound like with an EQ on. It just sounds weird. It doesn't sound like me at all. It sounds very boxy and weird. So this is what I sound like naturally. And we want to make sure that we're leaving as much naturalness in the vocal without clashing with other stuff. And the way we tend to handle this when you have wide vocals like this is addressing the side image separately from the mid signal.
What you know about me?
And I'm generalizing, but when you're doing harmonies like this, this is usually the case for my lower vocal.
What you know about me?
So now we're going to solo the first.
What you know about me?
So this is very thin in my opinion.
What you know about?
This is just EQing everything.
What you know about me? What you know about me? Y'all don't. When you call my line. When I call decline. Y'all don't. What you know about me? What you know about me? Y'all don't. When I call my line. When I call decline. Y'all don't.
All right, so it sounds good just because it was a good take. Again, your song should sound good regardless of if you mix it or not. Now let's play the patcher path, which separates the mid signal versus the side.
What you know about me? What you know about me? Y'all don't. When you call my line. When I call decline. Y'all don't. What you know about me? What you know about me? Y'all don't. When I call my line. When I call decline. Y'all don't.
So basically it just adds that density back to the middle. And density is a part of that glue feeling that we talk about, that warmth. We don't want to take out so much of the 100 to 200 hertz that we're left with nothing. The reason is, that's usually where a lot of fundamental frequencies exist for vocals. So fundamental frequencies are the thing that make up the sound. So if you take it away, it's like, it's not even the sound anymore. All right, so on the vocals, I want you guys to see this. There's no plugins. And I just recorded this in this booth behind me. Basically, let me see if you guys can see. Hold up. So behind me, I have a GIK acoustic portable isolation booth recommended by Mixbus TV. Thank you to him. I have 2 of those. And on top, we have an acoustic panel from GIK Acoustics. And basically, it's a Neumann U87, which pick up a lot of detail. and I'm running into an Avalon 737 into a Universal Apollo X8 and an Apollo 8 combo. They're daisy chained. So that's the signal flow. I don't have a ton of, acoustic treatment. I don't have a ton of processing. I don't have compressors. I don't have any of that. And you shouldn't need a bunch of plugins. Mainly what I'm saying to you guys is if you need to slap 1,000 plugins on the vocal, I'm not telling you it's wrong. I'm just telling you, you're probably just need to go back to recording a little bit differently.
What you know?
So here's the raw.
What you know about me? What you know about me? Y'all don't. When you call my line, when I call decline, y'all don't. What you know about?
So notice I'm leaving in the breaths. That's part of the energy of the song. A lot of people, you might generalize the advice you guys get on YouTube and take out every single breath and take out every S and lower everything. It's just like, let the performance be the performance. If you guys are artists, you know that sometimes that first take is the best take. It just has the right emotion. It has the right energy. It was flawed, but it sounds perfectly in that emotion. Sometimes it's better to just use that than be perfect about everything. I just want to encourage you guys to not need perfect everything to feel like you have to make your productions that way.
What you know about?
Some of the greatest songs had imperfections, and the reason is because you have imperfection with imperfection, and it creates this wide sound. So we kind of lost that with auto-tune in a way.
What you know about me? What you know about me? Y'all don't. When you call my line, when I call decline.
Now my recording, which is part of the mixing, I'm panning one hard left, one hard right. So I did 3 different takes, same words, just slightly different. Now that you guys understand the difference between side and mid signal, they're all little bits of different. So when we pan one left to the right and one to the right, it creates a natural width without any plugins.
What you know about?
Because they're the difference.
What you know about me? What you know about me? Y'all don't. When you call my line, when I call.
And you need that kind of breath to keep that kind of 80s energy on this track. So again, if you EQ out every little thing, it's just going to kill the vibe.
What you know about me? About me? What you know about me? About me? Y'all don't. When you call my line.
Now, somebody else might say, okay, well, it still needs compression and all this stuff to stick above the beat. At this point, I'm trying to give you guys like maxims, if that's the right word. Like generalizations might be a better word. Think of Michael Jackson, man. I think it's Beat It. If it's not Beat It, it's Billie Jean. One of the doom 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 doom. Billie Jean. I'm pretty sure it's Billie Jean. If you listen to that song, I'm pretty sure it's Billie Jean, the mix I'm referring to. The drums and the bass are like way more important than the vocal. Like if you listen to the original mix, the vocal is not sitting on top of all this stuff. And it's Michael Jackson. I mean, they're still talking about Michael Jackson years after his passing. And I'm sure they'll be talking about him centuries from now. Because the man just was this, when you listen to his multi-tracks, his sessions, it's magical. Like without touching a multi-track session, it's like, what is this magic I'm listening to? It's the most humbling thing. Listening to Michael Jackson studio sessions, like instrument by instrument. You're like, wow, there was a guy on a Moog keyboard that was going ham, like perfectly. And there's no mixing that you need to understand that the vibe was there first. And I guess what I'm trying to say is this kind of culture of thinking the vocal needs to sit on top of everything. You guys got to realize that's not the case for a lot of hit songs. I'm not telling you guys what to do. I'm just saying that when you start to approach mixing your vocals as if they have to be on top, that's what introduces so many problems with you guys as a mix. So to me, as a producer / artist / mixing engineer, I understand the purpose of what I'm trying to do with the production. And the vocals are not always the main thing that has to be on top all the time. So you just have to decide, do the vocals need to be on top of your mix? If the answer is yeah, then the next step is to add compression. Now we're doing background vocals. These aren't main lead vocals here. We will go into the lead vocals in a separate session here. But what we're going to do though is just go to about 2:1 to 4:1. That's usually where I stay with vocals. I don't go above 4:1. So 2:1 is very soft compression. It's like very tame. My usual default attack time is 30 milliseconds. I don't have time to explain everything about everything, guys. So you just got to like understand. We cover this in our mixing fundamentals course. If you guys do want a thorough course and thorough training, go to busyworksbeats.com/black because you'll find, 85 courses or more of our mixing stuff. So 85 courses is a lot of stuff. And I have a course called Mixing Fundamentals that goes over, the fundamentals of mixing: compression, EQ, stereo width, loudness, reverbs. Like I go step by step through the components. In this live stream, I don't have time to give you guys a whole 12-hour training. So I have to kind of cut to the gist here. Basically speaking, the lower you make your release, the more saturated the sound becomes. That's the general thing. Now, if you're talking about groove, then when you increase your release, you're basically just trying to time it with the groove, like how long it takes to go from the to the snare. Okay, that's when you would turn up your release, is when you're trying to figure out that gap in between. That's for more like group compression. Whereas if you're compressing a vocal, chances are you're going to be having your release pretty low for hip hop. Unless you're trying to just have the compression really hold down on the signal, you just slowly increase your release. So I usually start with a release all the way down. Now the attack time, this is just telling us how much of the signal we're gonna basically allow through the compressor without it strangling it to death. So 30 milliseconds is just a general good starting point. And then we're gonna lower what's called the threshold. Now this compressor does not show us anything, so you gotta go by ear. -20 is always like a good starting point, but it can be aggressive for things like groups of vocals. Now, when you compress, the main concept is that we're making the left and the right signal more similar now, because now they're getting more similar in volume. So if we compress the side signal, or the entire signal, which is the side and the mid, the side is now becoming more, uniform. So now it's actually becoming more centered, because we're compressing that, we're taking out the difference between the left and the right. So if I squash this compressor, we're going to lose some of that width. So I'm exaggerating this just so you guys can hear it. I'm going to turn the compressor on and off. It's a tiny difference, but there is a difference in the stereo image of the sound. This compressor is kind of hard to understand because there's no visuals. So what I'll do is I'll switch this to Fruity Limiter to demonstrate a little bit more clearly. All right, so Fruity Limiter, if you go to compressor mode, we have the same buttons here, same knobs. Let's turn up the ratio. You can read the value in the top left of FL Studio in the info panel. We're setting this to 2:1 ratio, and then we're going to pull down the threshold. Now you guys will see purple anytime this compressor pulls out volume. So basically we're turning down the loud parts of the audio and we're making it more linear. So we're taking out the pointy parts. And when you take out the pointy parts, you're losing what we call dynamic. So depending on how you use a compressor, you can use it to shave off what we call transient. You could use it to make the transients more exaggerative. There are many different ways to go about using compression. I can't go through every single thing about everything right here, but let's just give you guys some starting settings. 30 milliseconds of attack, about, this fast release. And then we're going to go 2:1 ratio, threshold somewhere around -20. That's usually a good starting point. So you can see the threshold isn't low enough to capture the signal. Let's make it lower. Now you might hear this roundness to the sound. Listen to the jaggedness of the original. When you call my line, when I call decline, what you know about me, what you know about me, when you call my line. All right, now let's add the compressor and listen to the roundness of it. What you know about me, what you know about me, when you call my line, when I call decline, what you know about me, what you know about me, when you call my line, when I call decline. It's like this invisible thing that's like holding it there. So that's a very soft way to use compression. For those who can't hear it, just like I said, if your song doesn't sound good to begin with, mixing it won't make it sound better. I mean, I shouldn't say it that way. If your song doesn't sound good to begin with, mixing it won't make it sound good. Mixing makes stuff sound better. Now, compression is not a mandatory thing. It's a style. Okay, so you don't have to do compression in this way. Now, what we're going to do is, I like that sound, but the thing is it got quieter. So let's add an EQ after the compressor. Now, most people reach for this gain knob. And I think this gain knob is an input gain knob. What you know about me, what you know about me. Could Could be an output gain. I don't trust it though.
What you know about me?
So because I'm not sure if this is output or input, I'm pretty sure it's output, but let's add another EQ too. And on the far left here, we have a main level.
What you know about me?
We could just turn up the signal. So here's the, a concept as well, where you want to usually match where you started before you added plugins. Okay, I know this is convoluted to beginners. So we're going to basically read the value in the top left. It's measured in what's called dB. If you hover your mouse.
What you know about me?
So the signal peaks
What you know
around
about me?
about -9 dB. Now, if we add the plugin chain,
What you know about me? What you know about me?
it peaks at about -12. So I'm going to use this EQ to boost about 3 more dB. Let's do 3. So we're boosting about 6 dB in this case.
What you know about me? What you know about me? Y'all don't.
Now I boosted too much.
What you know about me? What you know about me? Y'all don't. When you call my line, when I call the.
So we're somewhere around the same area. So this means I can now turn off the effects and turn them back on to truly hear what we're doing to the vocal. Now it's so subtle, beginners aren't going to be able to hear it. I just didn't want to compress it heavily, but I will compress it heavier so that you beginners can hear the tone.
What you know about me? What you know about me?
Here's before. Just listen to the jaggedness of the vocals. Okay, that's the thing you should focus on.
What you know about me? What you know about me? Y'all don't. When you call my line, when I call the decline. Y'all don't. What you know about me? What you know about me? Y'all don't. When you call my line, when I call the decline.
All right, now let's turn on the plugin.
What you know about me? What you know about me? Y'all don't. When you call my line, when I call the decline. Y'all don't. What you know about me?
And now, I don't know if you guys can detect that, but now I'm starting to hear, because we compress stuff, now we've added harmonics, and now I can hear the rumble of the vocal. Okay, the stuff that I did not mess with over here. So this is why I said when you add compression, you begin to reshape the sound into something completely different. Let me show you guys in terms of harmonics, because it might make more sense once you understand what we're actually doing. Compression is not just volume. Compression is actually adding what we call harmonics to a sound. Whenever your release is really low, you're adding harmonics to a sound. Whenever your attack is really low, you're adding harmonics to a sound. What are harmonics? Harmonics are multiples of a frequency. So if I take, this is channel 47. So if I find where'd it go? I guess I deleted it. Let's open up the 3X OSC, create a tone. So we're going to route this to channel, 47, so that we can see what's actually happening with the signal. So before we add the compression, we should just see a horizontal line, okay? Because the sine wave is basically only one frequency and one frequency only. So let me turn this effect chain on. Let's turn these off. So this, I forgot to do one thing. We have oscillators 2 and 3 turned on, so we have to turn these off to do this experiment. Okay, so now we only hear one tone. Okay, this is called a sine wave. So this one sits somewhere around 100 hertz. Okay, it's just a horizontal line. That's what a sine wave is. That's why a sine wave sounds different than a square wave. A square wave has more horizontal lines, and these horizontal lines represent what are called harmonics. So a harmonic is basically taking the frequency of a sound and multiplying it. Pardon me. So when I say the second harmonic, I mean 2 times what's called the fundamental frequency. So the lowest note that a sound makes is called a fundamental frequency. Once you start adding harmonics, you're literally adding more frequencies to the sound. So if I switch to a square wave, for example, I'm still playing the same note, but there's like 100 more frequencies. That's why it sounds more full and more bitey. If I go to a sawtooth kind of sine wave combine, you get this shape. If I go to triangle, you get less density in the harmonics. If I go to a sawtooth, one of the most bitey, okay? So basically what I'm saying is, when you hear even harmonics, it means multiplying the fundamental frequency times 2, times 4, times 6, times 8. So instead of just getting 100 hertz, we would get 100 hertz, 200 hertz, 400 hertz, 600 hertz, 800 hertz, all playing at the same time. And that's called the timbre of a sound, the harmonic structure of a sound. This is what separates one sound from the next, is the amount of harmonics a sound is. Basically, everything is a sine wave, okay? Except for noise. Noise is randomized. Okay, so now that we understand that, if we run it through these plugins, we should get the same horizontal line just turned up or turned down if that's all compression did. So let's turn on this chain of effects. Now we should be able to go into Wave Candy and see the same exact horizontal line, but look guys, we see more horizontal lines. So compression is doing way more than just turning something up or turning it down. It's actually adding frequencies that did not exist in our original take. Okay, so when you add low frequencies, like I said before earlier in this masterclass, I said the reason I mix from low to high is because when you start adding compression and saturation and stuff and clipping, you're actually adding more frequencies to the mix. So you're taking your sub bass that might have just been chilling at 100 hertz, and now we have 200 and 400 and 600. Now we got all these other frequencies to deal with. And now these new frequencies have to blend with the instruments that are in the upper registers. So this is what we're actually doing to the audio, to the vocal. And that's why you begin to hear the lower frequencies on the vocal, because now we took a frequency that you couldn't normally hear due to what's called the Fletcher-Munson curve, and we've added harmonics to it. And we now made that 60 hertz or 30 hertz, whatever it is, more audible, because now it has harmonics to be heard in our audible range. So that's basically what's happening. I think we can get a visual on the vocal. Let's do it before and after. Let's do before.
What you know about?
Now it's not going to be as obvious with vocals because it has so much stuff going on.
What you know about me? About me. What you know about me? About me. Y'all don't. When you call my line. When I call decline. Y'all don't.
All right, so you guys can see what it looks like before. Now again, it might not be dramatically different.
What you know about me? About me. What you know about me? About me. Y'all don't. When you call my line.
But if you guys look closely, there's this new horizontal line here at 45 hertz and below about 60 hertz. That didn't exist before. So let's turn it off.
What you know about me? About me. What you know about me?
Okay, it did exist. It just wasn't as prevalent. Here it is right here. It's about 60 hertz, 60 hertz and below. There's this horizontal line. It's very faint. Now, if I turn this stuff on,
what you know about me? About me. What you know about me? About me. Y'all don't.
I can visually see we're adding density to that 60 hertz, that 40 hertz tone. So now that I've added this compression, I now have a new problem, which is that low rumble frequency that we didn't even hear it at first. Okay, so here's where you might add what's called a high pass filter. Now, again, if you're like me, you have a deeper voice. You can't just cut out all the lows because you're basically cutting out your own voice. So what we have to do is figure out, there is a compromise here. And the compromise is that I'm sacrificing the intensity of my fundamental frequency of my voice to remove some background noise that I don't want. All that being said, we're going to switch here. Left click switches to a high pass filter. We're going to do about this curvature here. And these represent different, what are called dB per octaves. You don't need to memorize that. And basically, we're going to target anything from about 60 and below.
What you know about me?
And now if I look at this graph, I shouldn't have those strong horizontal lines here at the bottom anymore.
What you know about me?
So I'll do it before and after. You might have to zoom in on your phone to see this.
What you know about me? About me. What you know about me? About me. Y'all don't. When you call my
So look at this strong subline right here.
Y'all don't. What you know about me?
Now let's turn the filter on.
What you know about me? About me. Y'all don't. When you call my line. When I call decline. Y'all don't.
Okay, you can visually see. Let me see if there's a way to pause. Man, I got so many buttons to press. I think there's a way. Okay, we can freeze it. So I'm going to do this one more run. So I want you guys to look at we're going to focus on the bottom part of this chart. There's a horizontal line that goes across two of them.
What you know about me? About me. What you know about me? About me. Y'all don't. When you call my line. When I call decline. Y'all don't. What you know about me? About me. What you know about me? About me. Y'all don't. When I call my line.
Okay, so I froze it so that you guys can visually see. I want you guys to take the time. I don't know if I double click this, if it's going to mess up the picture. But if you just zoom in right about here where my mouse is, this little white line, there's two lines that go across. These represent frequencies that are not my voice because they're consistent. If this were just like going with my vocal, it would be probably part of my vocal, but these are background noises, environmental noises. My, AC unit, my people driving by outside. It's all the outside stuff. Okay. And so we have to remove this because it's not my vocal. So in FL Studio, all we have to do basically is just filter everything below this point, which is about 60 hertz. But I didn't need to focus on 60 as much. I focused on 40 because that's where that tone was really dense. So you should be able to zoom in and see a very big difference between the coloration here. If you can't see it, then I don't know what to tell you. But basically, we're just cleaning up the bottom end of that vocal because once you start processing it, adding harmonics, you begin to hear the lower registers because now they have multiples called harmonics that are representing those low frequencies. So that's what I would do to this vocal.
What you know?
I wouldn't overprocess this vocal. It doesn't need anything. It's already stereo spread. It's already a nice tone. I don't need reverb on it. I don't need anything else.
What you know about me? What you know about me? Y'all don't know. When you call my line, when they call decline. Y'all don't know. What you know about me? What you know about me? Y'all don't know. When they call my line, when they call decline. Y'all don't know.
So we went over how to mix your 808s. We went over how to mix or go through different reverb styles. We went over how to understand vocals. We went over harmonics, and we went over the basics, like how to gain stage. We went over how to level in the beginning. Gain staging means, it was the concept of me showing you the before the effects and then after the effects. We're trying to target the same dB so that we keep ourselves with the same amount of what they call headroom. So gain staging probably won't make sense unless you guys get real outboard gear, real hardware, like a guitar pedal. Because if the signal goes too aggressively or too loud into a guitar pedal, it will start to distort, and it's a nasty tone. So you really won't understand until you probably get into analog stuff. But it's the same concept. Like gain staging is how much volume goes in and out each plugin. So it's basically managing the volume per plugin. Okay, that's what gain staging is. Leveling is just turning stuff up, turning it down. All right, now that we understand that, now let's get to the final mix, which is the adding the punch. So let's reference the original mix.
What you know about me? What you know about me?
Now this first standard clip isn't doing much here, but it's basically chopping off what's called the transient portion, or the very pointy parts of the audio. Transients eat up a lot of what we call headroom. Think of your master channel or your total mix bus like a computer. Like if your computer only has 20 gigabytes left and you want Omnisphere 3, it's like you can probably squeeze Omni 3, like delete stuff and try to squeeze Omnisphere on your computer, but you don't have enough room to run the process, because you need not only space for Omnisphere 3, which you can actually sign up for the Omnisphere giveaway at busyworksbeats.com/Omnisphere. We're going to pick a winner November 15th. So make sure you guys join in for free. As a free bonus, you guys get, 3 analog lab banks for free for R&B, electronic, and trap. And I made a free 2 free Omnisphere banks for you for wave and what was the other one? Trap. So we have Omnisphere banks for wave and trap. Then we have 3 analog lab banks for trap, R&B, and electronic. So basically every genre was pretty much covered for the most part. So you guys get 50 sounds per bank. So that's about 250 sounds for free. If you go to busyworksbeats.com/Omnisphere, you also get a ton more bonuses, but I don't want to make this video 30 minutes long. But that's just for entering the giveaway. And we're going to do the giveaway November 15th here. We're going to do it live.
What you know about me? What you know about me?
So one lucky winner is going to win Omnisphere 3, the new Omnisphere. So be sure to enter before November 15th, 2025 for the people watching in the future. Okay, so now that you guys comprehend the vocals, gain staging, leveling, there's tricks to all this stuff, and just the concept of, hey, your song needs to be good before you mix. Mixing is not going to make your song good. It's going to make it better. Unless you're a sound designer, okay, then you could turn, crap into sugar. But you have to be a sound designer for the most part. Okay, we went over reverbs. We went over a lot for this one. Now let's get into, like I said, headroom is basically space on, I'm saying metaphorically, it's like space on your computer. Even though your computer has, 20 gigs of space, you don't want to install something that's 19 gigs, because your computer still needs space to operate. You don't want to just max it out at the storage and think your computer is going to run the right way. So headroom is the same way. We try to preserve the amount of room we have before we get to 0 dB, because 0 dB is where we start maxing out, basically, in the digital realm. I don't know all the science behind the terms. We're just going to call it maxing out for now. Okay. Once you go above 0, it creates nasty results. So let's just basically keep everything below 0. Now that what this plugin is doing, this clipping plugin, it's taking all these little microscopic transients that are so small, our ear can't even really pick it up in terms of like a presence. It's there technically to stimulate our ear, but it's not loud enough to be heard as a thing. So these are usually ghost transients. And these usually derive from drums and percussion, because those are very pointy things by nature. So what we're doing with this first plugin is shaving off those transients. It's almost like when you get a haircut, like if your hair is too spiky, and it's just like my hair right now. I'm going to use me as an example. So my hair right now, I just haven't cut my hair in probably 2 weeks. It's just kind of like, it's not even, it's just kind of like everywhere. But when I cut my hair, everything will be even. and it'll look more cohesive. Or like when you cut your grass and everything's just like going every which way, and then you cut your grass and then everything looks more uniform. That's what we're doing with clipping. We're making stuff look more uniform. I guess I could demonstrate this. Technically, let's demonstrate this with, trying to think, what can we demonstrate this with? We would need a drum break of some sort. I don't think we have time. Maybe in the next session we'll go over, because we have a sample. So in the next session, we'll talk about this more specifically. But here, again, we're just buying more storage space, metaphorically speaking, by shaving off the parts of the hair that don't need to be that spiky, metaphorically speaking. That's what we're doing with standard clip. See how these things are just going really high up? The ear does, basically that's what we're doing. We're taking things and we're squaring it off so that it's not super spiky. That's what we're doing. Okay, now this next plugin is kind of hard to explain. Mixbus TV put me onto it, but it just helps me add density and energy to a track. This is a one-of-a-kind type of plugin. You're not really going to find a comparable thing in FL Studio, because FL Studio doesn't even have a good multi-band compressor. It's another thing why it's hard to teach you guys mixing in FL Studio, because like I said, you have to literally create plugins from scratch to use stuff, and it's like, it takes too much time. The next one is Gold Clip. It basically does the same thing as standard clip. It's just more of a different tone to it. And then we have the R compressor. In this case, I was using it for some expansion. So let's kind of recreate this chain. So the first thing we're going to do, a lot of people swear by Fruity Soft Clipper, but it's not for every song. But I'll show you guys how to use Soft Clipper. Now, most people just slap on Fruity Soft Clipper and turn the threshold to the right. This gives you the biggest tone. For other genres like Playboi Carti or Osama Sun or like Xavier So Bass, you might turn the threshold to the left. This gives you more of a bubbly tone. Whereas if you turn it to the right, you get more of a tall tone. So if you have hard drums, you usually want to turn this to the right. So you're not really going to hear what it's doing. What I will show you though is, let's run it through. So before you get to the Soft Clipper, the nature of tape, for example, is you have to hit tape with volume. Okay, so the same thing with the Soft Clipper, you want to hit it with the volume. So the way I control this is with an EQ2 before the Soft Clipper. So now I can turn this furthest left fader that Lifestyle Did It put me onto, because I didn't even realize this was that. It basically can turn up the signal or turn down the signal. So this is like a volume knob for the entire beat. Now we're pushing the volume into the Soft Clipper. The goal is we want the Soft Clipper to react more. So we don't just want to turn up the volume. We're turning up the volume into a soft clipper. So it's getting the soft clip sound. I usually position this around the kick and the 808 until they sound too crunchy, and then I pull it back. If you push it really hard, you get that crunchy tone. Now, personally, that's just too much energy for me. But let's see what it sounds like at this volume going through the other portion, the other threshold setting. So let's turn this to the left. And as you guys can hear, my voice is even more bubbly sounding. But to the right, it wasn't as bubbly. But turn it to the left, it adds this like bubbly. So it creates that ripple-y effect. Now, depending on like what genre you're going for, you might want that kind of ripply tone, that XXXTentacion type sound, that Osama Sun type sound, that, like I said, that Playboi Carti type sound. You might want to, it just depends on the genre. So there's no right or wrong way and how much to push through Fruity Soft Clipper. But when you have it on this left setting, you're going to get more of this distorted tone. So I'm going to push it even harder. Now to compensate though, we need to gain stage this. So basically I'm going to turn down the post or the output gain of the Fruity Soft Clipper so that we're not just getting louder, we're actually hearing a tone difference. So let's do before and after. Here's before. We're at like, I don't even know, the meter is just it's somewhere beyond 0. Okay, so let's turn the plugins on. And now we're hitting at like -3, okay? So we probably reduced the track about 6 dB, but it sounds more aggressive. Here's where we start to balance out that the post gain up.
about me, what you know about me, about me, y'all don't know. When you call my line, when they call the cut, y'all don't know. What you know about me, about me.
So now we can truly turn this on and off to see if we like the tone. So let's do it before.
What you know about me, what you know about me, about me, what you know about me, about me, y'all don't know. When you call my line, when they call the cut, y'all don't know. What you know about me, about me, what you know about me, about me, y'all don't know. When you call my line, when they call the cut, y'all don't know. What you know about me, about me, what you know about me, about me, y'all don't know. When you call my line.
So it definitely has this like garbliness. For this track, we don't need it because this track's supposed to be more of a clean tone. But that is how you get that Osama Sun type mix. I'm just showing you guys who are more younger producers. So now let's just run through a soft clipper and reset the post gain. So here I'm just really looking for peak control, nothing too crazy. Listening to the kick in the 808.
What you know about me, about me, what you know about me, about me, y'all don't know. When you call my line, when they call the cut, y'all don't know. What you know about me, about me, what you know about me, about me, y'all don't know. When you call my line, when they call the cut, y'all don't know. What you know about me, about me, what you know about me, about me, y'all don't know. When you call my line, when they call the cut, y'all don't know. What you know about me, about me.
So it gives us enough tone. We don't want to overly complicate that. Now the next stage, that we're trying to emulate in this case is that multi-band compressor. In FL Studio, we don't have this simple technique. So if you're going to get into multi-band compression, you're probably going to have to set up your own patcher. FL Studio, it just sounds so abysmal. I would never show you guys to use this. It just does not sound good. I'm sorry. And it's not a diss to FL or anything. It just makes your sound really plasticky. I don't know why. So here's the multi-band, for example.
What you know about me, about me, what you know about me, about me, y'all don't know. When you call my line, when they call the cut, y'all don't know. What you know about me, about me, what you know about me, about me, y'all don't know. When you call my line, when they call the cut, y'all don't know. What you know about me, about me, what you know about me, about me, y'all don't know. When you call my.
I don't know. It just has like this weird plasticky tone that it's just like, I think it has something to do with the phase or how they set up the plugin itself. I don't use it. So it's really hard for me to use that. Now there's another plugin called Maximus, and I think this plugin does the same exact thing to my ear. It adds like a plasticky type of, as you guys can hear my voice, like if I just turn this off, I sound fine. If I turn it on, it sounds like this weird, I don't know, it just does something to my voice I just don't like. So I try to stay away from these plugins. I know you guys will see people talking about it. Unless you're like a master at Maximus, maybe there's somebody who knows how to use it. It's way too complicated for me. And if it's complicated for me, it's probably complicated for the next man. So I stay away from it, but it also gets you guys heard it without even doing anything. It makes it sound plastic. So I try to stay away from plasticky plugins. Again, what was the first rule? First, do no harm. Now let's open up Patcher. So if we open up Patcher, you're not going to hear a sound because we haven't wired the input to the output. So when you're on your master track and you're wondering why you can't hear anything with Patcher, it's because you need to connect these wires. Now, before we connect the wires though, let's decide what we're trying to do with this. So normally speaking, I do a mid-side EQ or I do a left-right compression in parallel. So we have to decide, are we going to do a mid-side thing with this track? Let's listen in. So mid-side thing, for example, let me just show you guys what that would sound like. This does not come with FL Studio. I just want you guys to understand what I'm talking about. So for example, if I switch this to mid-side mode and I turn down the middle signal, here's the side signal. Now, if I turn up the side signal, does the song sound better? I think the mono signal needs to be dominant over the side signal. So in this case, I do like the difference between the volumes of the left and the mid and the side. So in Patcher, we're going to do that same technique here. We're going to right click. We're going to add a plugin. This one's called Fruity Stereo Shaper. We're going to double click in here. And we're going to create an independent path for the middle signal and the side signal. Now, sometimes we just want to boost the side signal. Sometimes we want to, there's different things we want to do to it. Let's right click. Let's go to mixing. Let's go to mid A side splitter. And remember, this number here represents the audio output send. So we have to right click here, go to outputs, audio send to, okay? And this creates this stereo signal. So by default, this is set to mono. Now you guys can mix in mono. It does help you guys hear the dynamic of your track. Dynamic is a little bit hard to hear when you have sound everywhere. Like when sound comes from your left, the middle, you know, all these different directions, it's hard to tell where the bounce is if everything is coming from every direction. When you center it to be mono, meaning only one like path, or centered, I'll say, you are listening to one direction only. So this helps your ear pick up on the actual rhythm and the dynamic of your track. All right, so again, keep in mind when you start mixing on the beat mix or the stereo mix, you can be heavy-handed sometimes. And this is where you just got to keep going back and forth to understand, like sometimes you might be in the groove making a sound, but then you pull it off and you're like, wait, it sounds better without it. This is where mixing becomes a middle ground, less of a how to do. So as we have our middle signal, we want to take the side image and let's right click this node, insert a plugin here called Parametric EQ2. We're just using this as a boost knob. Let's double click in here, go to the drop down, go to monitor input, switch it to side, just like we did before. So then we can see the actual signal. All right, then we're going to send this back to FL Studio. So essentially what we've done is split the signal into middle and side, and they combine back into a full. Now nothing happened yet. We didn't do anything except for split the signal, which there's no audible, you shouldn't hear an audible difference if you split the signal. Now in bad plugins and bad DSP, you will hear some phase offset. So the question is, what do we do to the middle? What do we do to the side? Let's right click, let's rename this side EQ. And on the side here, we could just simply just turn up this fader. And that gives you more width. Remember, width is the difference between your left and your right. So if I turn up the fact that the differences are getting louder and louder, it makes it sound wider. Now, this is not how wide I would want this track. I'm just showing you guys. Now, if I take away the width, it will sound more narrow. And that's what some people perceive as clarity, simply taking away some things on the side image. Because there's less stuff to be muddied up. So we have to find that middle ground of like, yeah, we want that kind of focus on the mono, but we also want the harmony to be spread. So there's a middle ground somewhere. And some people may think we added some special limiter or something. All we're doing is just leveling the side image. Let's do an A/B before and after. So here's before. Okay, so the reason I did that is so we could save it faster. So if that was the before, here's the after. Now we can feel more dynamic because now we took away the distraction of the side image, and now we could hear that movement in the middle. But now we lost some of that energy on the side, so we can go back and actually boost. So we cut the entire thing, but now we can go back and say, okay, I want these frequencies to stick out on the side. So it's usually the lows and the highs here. And when people say warmth, they usually mean about 100 to 400 hertz on the side. So as I boost this, you're going to hear the sound become more enveloped. let's see if we can turn this up a little bit. Now we can turn it up here as a side image, or we can go to the actual vocal channel and turn that up.
What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when I call the cut. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when I call the cut.
We are also boosting the entire stereo image. So boosting this heavily on the entire stereo image can be a little dramatic. This is where I usually go back to the original sound source, in this case, the vocal.
What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when I call the cut. What you know about me?
So let's open up. Oh, we had a patch on here. Let's turn the vocals down from the actual source.
What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when I call the cut. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when I call the cut. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when I call the cut.
So that frequency I was referencing earlier was actually 100 hertz. It became too aggressive. It hurt my ear.
What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line.
This is too buzzy. Okay, so I meant to pull that one down.
What you know about me? What you know about me?
Now I'm boosting like the second and third harmonics.
What you know about
So notice I'm just turning everything down, but then boosting up the things that need to be exaggerated.
what you know about me? What you know about me?
Now we do lose the original stereo imaging.
What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when I call the cut. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when I
So remember, any little small touches you add to the stereo mix, it will offset. So try, you're going to undo your balance, basically, if you go too heavy-handed. So that's why I reset this back to 0, and then the song it felt more balanced.
What you know about me?
Okay, so the question is, what do we want to do to each part of the signal? Let's focus on the mid signal.
What you know about me?
I do want to have a little more dynamic here, so let's insert a plugin, and we're going to insert a compressor. Let's do Fruity Limiter, and we're going to put this on compressor mode. So let's switch the ceiling up, turn the compressor on, pull the threshold down, and then mess with this ratio. I do want to have a little of the attack come through, so let's pull this about 30 milliseconds. Release, we're going to fit this into the groove. I'm going to exaggerate so you guys can hear it, but then we're going to pull it back.
What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line.
So it goes like there's like a jumpiness to it.
What you know about
So that's part of what we're trying to create here is I want the kicks to be more like sharp. So I'm actually taking away volume from the body of the kick to make it feel more pointy.
what you know about me? What you know about me? When you call
And let's up the sustain to get rid of that jitteriness,
what you know about me?
that jitter.
What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my
And this, you'll be able to hear compression a little bit better in the mid signal and the mono.
what you know about me?
So I'll exaggerate this, but I don't think you'll be able to hear it more.
What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line.
Listen to what it does to the kick. It goes like that.
What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when I call the cut. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when I call the cut. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when I call the cut. What you know about me?
Now, if you want more transient to poke through, you can pull up the attack time.
What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when I call the cut. What you know about me? What you know?
So I'm trying to think of a way. We can A-B this. Let me A-B. So here, let me see here. Here's before the compression.
What you know about me? What you know about me? call decline. What you know about me? What you know about me? When it call my line, when it call decline.
All right, now here's after the compression.
What you know about me? What you know about me? When it call my line, when it call decline. What you know about me? What you know about me? When it call my line, when it call decline. What you know about me? What you know about me?
So with this compression in the middle, we're basically, again, creating more uniform signal based around the groove of the kick and the bass. That's what we're doing essentially.
What you know about me? What you know about me? When it call my line, when it call decline. What you know about me? What you know.
Now, when the middle signal and the side signal are too different, you can start to detect the difference, and that's where you want to try to avoid too much of a difference.
What you know about me? What you know about me? When it call my line, when it call decline. What you know.
Now we need to address the leveling here. So I'm going to stay within this patcher because I want to address the middle path, and I want to add another EQ here so that we can reshape some things. All right, let's rename this mid EQ.
What you know about me?
It's going to turn it up for one.
What you know about me? What you know about me? When it call my
And then start shaping the tone.
what you know about me? What you know about me? When it call my line, when it call decline. What you know about me? What you know about me? When it call my line, when it call decline. What you know about me? What you know about me? When it call my line, when it call decline. What you know about me? What you know about me? When it call my line, when it call decline. What you know about me?
Still feels like a small imbalance, and let's figure out where.
What you know
I think it has to do with that love you.
what you know about me? What you know about
So that we need to find that sample.
what you know about
I think it's right here.
what you know about me? What you know about me? When it call my line.
All right, so I think this, so everything's being routed to this group right here. I think this sample needs to be widened a little bit to fill in some of the gaps on the side. So let's open up a plugin called Fruity Stereo Shaper, and you could just up the delay. Phase is a little more subtle, but it does the same thing.
What you know about me?
So I'm trying to fill in the gaps on the side.
What you know about me? What you know about me? When it call my line, when it call decline. What you know about me? What you know about me? When it call my line, when it call decline. What you know about me? What you know about me? When it call my line, when it call decline. What you know about me? What you know about me? When it call my line, when it call decline. What you know about me? What you know.
I feel like we cut away too much of the lows, and this is where you're gonna have a dilemma with those vocals. I'm gonna pull back some of the lows.
What you know about me?
It just feels too high frequency balanced. So somebody asked earlier, warmth versus presence. This is a perfect example of where when you boost the presence too much, you lose the perception of the lows due to how our ear responds to higher frequencies. They're louder than lower frequencies.
What you know about me?
So I'm gonna pull in those lows back.
What you know about me?
Now that we have everything kind of in position, I can listen to tone more than individual thing.
What you know about me? What you know about me? When it call my line, when it call decline.
So now I'm pushing into the compressor. So now it's almost like when you write a melody and it's dope, and then you go back and you change out the sound. That's essentially what I'm doing, but I'm just changing levels to hear what it sounds like. So now I don't have to worry about compressing. We're compressing heavier, but it sounds doper.
What you know about me? What you know about me? When it come my line, when it call decline. What you know about me? What you know about me? When it come my line, when it call decline. What you know about me? What you know about me? What you know about me? What you know about me?
I like the signal without the compression on the mid signal. I feel like the compression just doesn't fit the groove of what we're trying to do. Now, the normal way I would use the compression is in parallel. So I would do this plus this, and you could use this as a fader knob. It's hard to explain this. Trying to figure out why we're not hearing our signal here. Oh, duh, this was turned off. All right, so here is the thing we're gonna blend in with the original. So here's my original voice. Here's the slightly compressed voice, even though my voice isn't triggering the compressor. We're gonna blend the two. Now, this is hard to teach because we're blending two different things. We're blending an extreme amount of compression that I'm about to push the track into versus the original signal. The goal of this is to add a little more density potentially. I don't do mine this way. I'm just showing you guys that MD4 plugin naturally does this. In FL Studio, you have to set up all this stuff. So what we're doing, again, we have the original signal going directly out, and then we have one going through this compressor. I'm going to make this compressor just sound super squashy, and we're going to blend that in with the original. So let's just solo the mono for now, the mid signal. So it goes, like the volume keeps going up and down. And we're gonna blend this with the original, so we can basically keep the movement that like that, but we're combining it with the original. We're just gonna turn down the other signal. The tricky part is how do you balance the volume of this? That's the tricky part. So you got to do it by ear, because basically if you just turn the one compressor up, you're just doubling the volume. So you have to do a balance act of like turning down the original and this wet level.
Steady calling my phone, cause a nigga going up, he on. Going higher than the moon. Call me from December to June. When things heat up, niggas ain't really they even eat lunch.
Now we didn't mix this vocal. I forgot I even had that in there. I guess I'll show you guys how to mix this vocal.
Man, they steady calling my
vocals are easy. Compression, EQ. If you have to do any more than that, then you have a bad recording. Like I said before, guys, I'm going to EQ out the lows because I know that when we start compressing, we're going to hear that rumble. So let's just cut it out here at 60 hertz.
Man, they steady calling.
And let's hit it with the compressor. I'm going to do a fruity limiter for this one. Let's put it on compressor mode. We're going to pull the threshold back. Ratio to 2 to 1. It's usually where I start. And I'm just going to mess with the threshold here. Now also too, fast release. We're going to have the release all the way down. My attack time for vocals is usually like 20 milliseconds. I don't like super zero attack because it takes away the pointiness of the audio.
Man, they steady calling my phone, cause a nigga going up, he on. Going higher than the moon. Call me.
So this vocal doesn't need tonal adjustment.
Man, they steady calling.
So let's just pull up the volume here with an EQ.
Man, they steady calling my phone, cause a nigga going up, he on. Going higher than the moon.
Now remember, when you go through that compressor, I want to keep saying this over and over and over again. When you have a fast release time or a fast attack time, it adds harmonics to your sound. So it's not going to be the same sound that you had before. It sounds a little bit more buzzy if you listen closely.
Man, they steady calling my phone, cause a nigga going up, he on. Going higher than the moon. Call me from December to June.
And we can measure this again with that sine wave. So we're on channel, what, 48? Pull up another of them things, the wave candid things. Let's right click, switch this to spectrum mode. Let's turn the scale up, turn the resolution up, and let's run a sine wave just to show you guys what I'm talking about. All right, so we have the sine wave. What channel is this? 48. 48.
Man, they steady calling my.
All right, so let's run the sine wave through 48. As you guys see all these horizontal lines after these compressors and EQ, well, really just the compressor. And here's before. So as soon as you add this compressor, it changes the sound entirely. It sounds like a whole different sound. So that's what happens when you guys do too much processing to your vocals. You're literally turning it into a whole different sound. So luckily this works with this track though.
Man, they steady calling my phone. Cause a nigga going up, he on. Going higher than the moon. Call me from December to June.
Now, if we wanted more like stuff on this, like delay and reverb, we could send this over to our reverb as a duplicate. We're gonna left click this up arrow and then turn this knob down.
Man, they steady calling my phone. Cause a nigga going up, he on. Going higher than the moon.
We don't need delay on this kind of rap performance, but something that's common is adding width. The tricky part in FL is how to add width that doesn't sound like a huge left-right offset. So you're gonna have to send this to another aux over here. This is a duplicate aux. It's called an aux wide. Now in FL Studio, you're not gonna get a perfect solution with FL Studio plugins, but we're gonna add the Fruity Stereo Shaper. We're gonna send the vocal over to the aux. And on the Fruity Stereo Shaper, we're gonna mess with the delay time.
Man, they steady calling my phone.
So if I exaggerate this, you'll hear like an actual left-right delay.
Man, they steady calling my phone.
But if you pull this delay in, you'll get less of an apparent effect.
Man, they steady calling my phone. Cause a nigga going up, he on.
But the problem is though, now you get phase offset, and that's what this phase knob is for. Think of this as like a coarse tuning. I know it doesn't have anything to do with pitch. Think of it like a coarse tune for those who know sound design, and think of this one like a fine tune knob.
Man, they steady calling my phone. Cause a nigga going up, he on. Going higher than the moon. Call me from December to June.
So I just did this microscopic time difference between the left and the right ear using the phase knob, and now you don't hear that obvious delay.
Man, they steady calling my.
But it sounds wider.
Man, they steady calling my phone. Cause a nigga going up, he on. Going higher than the moon.
And to see if it's actually wide, we're gonna open up the Imager by Isotope.
Man, they steady calling.
See, there's width here, but if we have it beforehand, there's gonna be no width.
Man, they steady call.
Straight up and down. So this is adding such a small amount of width, you can't detect it.
Man, they steady calling my phone. Cause a nigga going up, he on.
So if your vocals feels like it's not enough energy, sometimes you just need to widen it with that very subtle amount of stereo delay. You don't need to make it obvious like a super detuned sound. Now, if you're going for the detuned sound, you might add a chorus. Like if you're going for the Travis Scott vibe.
Man, they steady calling my phone. Cause a nigga going up, he on. Going higher than the moon.
So it's like that. It's adding this detune.
Man, they steady calling my phone. Cause a nigga going up, he on. Going higher than the moon. Call me from December to June.
It adds like this alien type tone. So we don't need that for this track.
Man, they steady calling my phone.
Now, one plugin that I don't think FL has either is a de-esser. So I'm trying to think, how will we create a de-esser? You would have to do a stereo split and then you have to compress it. Man, that's why I said FL Studio does not make this easy at all. You have to open up a patcher. I'm just going to quickly make one. I'm not going to explain everything about everything. Open up open up Frequency Splitter inside a patcher. We're actually going to turn off the high frequency. Let me see does it tell us the dB? Yeah, so it cuts at about 3 kilohertz, which is 3,000. Pretty much 3,000 and above is usually where harshness exists, and also 600 hertz. But let's just focus on 3,000 and above. I'm generalizing here. Okay, so let's turn off the signal for the high, but then send the high as an aux or a duplicate out to a different output. So now the output is number 2. So we're going to right click here, go to outputs, go to audio, send to. Now this send to is going to solo just the high frequencies. So let's right click here, let's insert a plugin, and let's add a compressor. I'm going to use Fruity Limiter because it's easier to visualize. Let's go to Fruity Limiter. So remember, this Fruity compressor limiter is also a compressor. We're going to click in here, go to compressor mode.
Many steady.
And all we have in here are the high frequencies. So I can left click this back to add the high frequencies back.
Many steady calling my phone.
For those who have a good ear, you hear it's like a boxiness now.
Many steady calling my phone. Cause a nigga going up, he on.
See how it feels like we're in a box? That's why I said some plugins are built for this, some aren't. So I think the frequency splitter, there's a time delay in here. So we can put it on, I guess, lowest precision to have a lower buffer.
Many steady calling my phone. Cause a nigga going up, he.
But as you guys can hear, it's a dramatic difference in tone. So that's why I don't use it this way. I'll just show you what I'm going to do though. Basically, we're just going to compress the highs.
Many steady calling my phone. Cause a nigga going up, he on.
But it's such a boxy tone. I'm not going to do it that way. But the last thing I would do is add a de-esser. I'll just show you guys what I would normally use because it just is easier to hear.
Many steady.
Let's turn this on. So this is the frequency it's targeting.
Many steady calling my phone. Cause a nigga going up, he on.
I forgot we have a. So here's the frequency we're targeting. It's like the high ring of the telephone, somewhere around like 6K. Because when you say S's, they usually exist in the same spot no matter. S's don't have tone. Okay.
Many steady calling my phone.
So de-esser doesn't always have to be used on S's. It could also be used on the harsher parts of your audio.
Many steady calling my phone.
This one has 2 different modes. So that's what I would normally use to tame some harshness.
Many steady calling my.
There is no FL Studio plugin equivalent, and even creating one causes like super amounts of delay.
Many steady calling my phone. Cause a nigga going up, he on. Going high.
I forgot that's the aux.
Many steady calling my phone. Cause a nigga going up, he on. Going higher than the moon. Call me from December to June. When things heat up, niggas ain't really they even eat lunch. Man, the facts of life. Many steady.
There's also a tone in here. I'm not going to be too particular, but when you add that high pass filter,
Many steady.
it adds like a boxiness. That's why I said there's trade-offs to everything, guys. I'm giving you a gist because this is not a full vocal mixing course. We actually have a vocal mixing course at busyworksbeats.com/black included in our 85 plus courses. It goes over the nuances of this, but in short, when you add a high pass filter, it starts to add this like boxy tone because you have more resonance down here. It does something to offset the phase, which makes certain things pop out sometimes.
Many steady calling my phone.
And so you get this like boxy tone.
Many steady calling my phone. Cause a nigga going up, he on. Going higher than the moon. Call me.
So somewhere from like 600 to 700.
Many steady calling my phone. Cause a nigga going up, he on. Going higher than the moon. Call me from December to June. When things heat up, niggas ain't really they even eat lunch.
So got rid of that annoying kind of like telephone sound.
What you know about me? What you know about me? When it call my line, when it call the time. What you know about me? What you know about me? When it call my line, when it call the time.
I think I reset the patch here. So you guys can hear it sounds way too crunchy. So you're gonna pull back on the soft clipper input. So because we didn't do anything to the signal, I'm gonna bypass patcher. We didn't commit to any mid-side effects there. I just want to remove anything that could potentially offset any kind of small things we're not hearing. And now the last thing I usually do is add a Fruity limiter for the expansion here because I like my song to be kind of bouncier. So this adds that little bounce. Let's turn the threshold to the left, ratio to the left, and we want the release time to be somewhere pretty short. And if we have too much jitter, pull up your sustain. Also, I forgot to turn up the ceiling here. So a good mix, you're usually hitting around 0 without even adding limiters and all this stuff. Usually your mix is like, your ear can tell when you're at the loudest part most of the time. Now for a limiter in FL Studio, I think they have a new one called Emphasis. Let's use that instead of Fruity Limiter. I just don't trust Fruity Limiter as the final limiter here. So let's use Emphasis instead. And we could just turn the gain knob up. There's no magic setting here. You can switch it to different modes, but I just keep it on the normal mode. Hardness deals with how it squares off the sound. So now I can hear where the vocals are a little too loud. We could turn them back down. So now, because we made all these changes, you know, we got to relook at the sounds. This is why I said mixing is such a back and forthness. So because I've widened the sample, we now have to address the sample now being on the side, whereas before it was not on the side. So that was a decision I made later in this mix. So I'm going to go back to that sample and turn it down. Because now more bass frequencies are coming through. All right, so this is a creative decision here. See all these little things add up over time.
Yeah. Slap, 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 slap. Yeah. Bring it back, 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 back. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when they call decline. What you know about me? What you know about me? When they call my line, when they call decline. Man, they steady calling my phone, 'cause a nigga going up, he on. Going higher than the moon. Call me from December to June. But when things heat up, niggas ain't really to even eat lunch. Man, the facts of life. Stacking racks to the back of the right. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when they call decline. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when they
So So now I'm just listening to each channel to address certain frequencies that stack.
Yeah. Slap, 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 slap. Yeah. Bring it back, 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 back. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when they call the climb. What you know about me? What you know about me? When they call my line, when they call. Niggas ain't really they even eat lunch. Man, the facts of life. Stacking racks to the back of the right. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call.
Another general rule is that on the limiter, where you usually don't push past 2 to 3 dB, here we're pushing like -4.
Yeah. Slap, 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 slap. Yeah. Bring it back, 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 back. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when they call the climb. What you know about me? What you know about me? When they call my line, when they call the climb. Man, they steady calling my phone, 'cause a nigga going up, he on. Going higher than the moon. Call me from December to June. But when things heat up, niggas ain't really they even eat lunch. Man, the facts of life. Stacking racks to the back of the right. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when they call the climb. What you know about me? What you know about me? When they call my line, when they call the What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when they call the climb. What you know about me? What you know about me? When they call my line, when they call the climb. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when they call the climb. What you know about me? What you know about me? When they call my line, when they call the climb.
So now I'm going through, I'm turning my headphones up, turning them down to really address all the microscopic little things that are poking out. So again, like I said, guys, mixing is a back and forthness. There's no do this every single time. It will sound the same every single time. It's not like that. Now, normally I would spend more time on this. I'm going to give it 1 more or 2 more passes through, make some adjustments, and then we'll listen back. I don't want to overly obsess about just this one song because we have 2 more songs to reference today. So that's the final step, is just going back and forth, turning stuff up, turning it down.
Yeah. Slap, 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 slap. Yeah. Bring it back.
Bruh. My screen froze. Oy, oy, oy. Man, oh man, oh man. How long was it frozen for? Like an hour? Bruh, 25 minutes of frozenness. What plugin caused frozenness? Was it Patcher? Bruh. Hold up, y'all. I cannot believe this joint froze. Hold up. That's why you should buy the courses, y'all. Courses, you'll see every step. That's wild. Let me see how long ago this was. Hold up. Y'all were staring at the screen for 30 minutes. Oh my Lord. 30 minutes of just staring at a screen. That's actually crazy. Oh my gosh, bro. That is so garbage. I apologize. I guess, I don't know. What is there to show you? I'll just show you guys the chain as we listen back. Let's move on to the next song after this. That's a sign we need to move on.
Yeah. Slap.
Let me just quickly explain. So firstly, sorry, y'all. I didn't know that was happening. I don't know what made it freeze. It just decided to freeze. Now I'm paranoid about the screen. Okay. So now we have the EQ. This is just turning stuff up on the left side here. Pretty soft clipper. The threshold turned to the right basically makes the song sound bigger. We're using the post gain here to turn down the volume so we're not just cranking everything up. We're using this complex patcher here. Basically, we ended up doing a mid-side splitter with a Fruity Stereo Shaper on what's called the mixing preset called mid-A side splitter. Okay, and then we're going into the side EQ, which is set to monitor side so that you can see the side information. Now this is, if you right click here, go to outputs, audio, send to, that creates the side output. The main output here creates the mono output or the mid output. So here we're basically just splitting the signal. It's going into the mid EQ. I'm cutting at 300 Hertz. Side EQ, I'm boosting at like 500 Hertz, very subtly. All right, and then that's all we did with the EQ there. And then we moved into another EQ where we're boosting the volume. Going into, do we use this? Oh yeah, going into a Fruity limiter. We're not using this as a limiter though. We're using it as an expander. So let me show you guys. We turn the ratio to the left, turn the threshold to the left at basically -16 for this track. Attack is fast, release is about 100 milliseconds or so. The sustain is up to remove the jitter, and we're boosting the volume every time the 808 hits, it boosts the volume. And then we're going into the limiter here. Now the ceiling should be at 0.
Yeah. Slap.
So that's how we got the final. I'm pretty sure the only thing that happened in 30 minutes that you guys may have missed is the mastering change. So forgive me on that, y'all. Please forgive me. I'm gonna have to edit that out of the final version. So if you want the final edited version, you guys got to go to busyworksbeats.com/black. There you guys go. You see how we turned a lemon to lemonade? So sorry, y'all. I cannot believe y'all were watching that. Oh my Lord, I'm so sorry. That's why I need to have the chat open. I have the chat hidden because this is going to be in a course, and I don't want the screen to be all taken up by the chat. But you know what? You guys will live forever in this course. So there you go. So now I'm paying attention to the chat. My new thing is keep the chat open. No more closed chat. I can't risk the screen doing that again. All right. So because you guys were so patient, I'm actually going to give you guys some bonus tips, some secrets I use. So thank you for being solid. Now, I said we're going to keep this to FL Studio only, so I'll try to keep it to FL Studio. My fault. Yeah, I tried not to read the chat because it gets distracting and it doesn't make it, you know, like a real teacher's not going to stop and listen to the class. Like you got to teach your lesson, then you talk to the class. Anyway, so let's turn the effects back on.
Yeah.
Here's the before.
Slap.
Here's after.
Yeah.
I'll keep turning it on and off.
Bring it back. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when I call the decline. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when I call the decline. Man, they steady calling my phone.
I feel like the vocals could be louder.
Going up, he on. Going higher than the moon. Call me from December to June. But when things heat up, niggas ain't really there, even eat lunch. Man, the facts of life. Stacking racks to the back of the right. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when they call the decline. What you know about me? What you know about me? When you call my line, when they call the decline.
So we learned a lot, though. I mean, for what you guys saw, you learned a lot. Okay, so because I effed up and didn't check the chat, that's my fault. So I'm going to give you guys some bonus secret tips. Let's move into, I'm trying to see where we can apply these secret tips, though. We could do straight vocal mixing, or we could do, Actually, let's take a little poll. What do you guys need help with the most when it comes to mixing? Is it the drums? Is it the bass? Is it the vocals, or is it the entire mix? Or is it loudness? I guess was what I should have said. All right, so let's open up a new session in the meantime. And I think we're going to go with the sample beat we did. All right, so I got to open this up. Sample beat should be this one. Boom. Check. All right, you guys said you need help with vocals. So if you want help with vocals, I'm gonna record a new vocal. If you choose vocals, I'll record to like a different beat. Maybe the Playboy Cardi beat we did a while ago, because that's a vocal that needs processing. So if you want vocal mixing, so far vocals and the entire mix is kind of neck and neck. So it's only 6 votes, so I'll give time for people to vote. But yeah, let me know if you guys want to mix the entire the entire track, the vocals, or what do you struggle with when it comes to mixing? Seems like the vocals tend to be the main thing. But we only have 6 votes. We need one more person to break this tie. Oh, you know what? You guys can't see the chat. My bad. Hold up. Hold up. Dang, we lost half the audience just because of the freaking screen glitch. Really? That's dumb. Hold up. We're not done, though. We got plenty time to go, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. That's the vote. So the poll says now everything's tied. Okay. So now it says bass, vocals, and the entire mix. So pretty much you guys are saying the entire mix is what you struggle with. So I'll just keep doing what I was doing. I just thought you may want to focus on something in particular. So here we have another track. And this is, what is this? This is, I forgot what it even sounds like a hip hop Dipset type track.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. Got to connect your 4 boroughs. Throwing a rock in 4 boroughs. Then we took over the whole world. Around the world, around the world. You know I did it in my own lane, with my own flame. Played the rock like I play my own game. Feeling like Rich Porter, New York by the water. Ice cold, need a sauna. If you touch it, you a goner. You already know the name. Dipset is the game. Hopping out Bentleys with 10 chains.
All right, so a secret plugin I like is called Genome. I'm gonna just put you guys on. This is not an FL plugin, but this is basically how you can run your drums through analog outboard gear without even ever buying analog outboard gear. You have to look at different companies. There are past to future reverbs. They sell what are called NAMM profile presets, and that's what you want to buy for this plugin called Genome. Genome does not come with FL Studio. Well worth the money. Pretty sure they'll have a Black Friday deal. I bought it at like $50. It's well worth it because you can load what's called stereo, whereas the other NAMM plugins that are free, like NAMM Neural Amp Modeler and NAMM was it Universal or something like that? Those claim they're stereo, but they're only mono. So this allows you to open up stereo, which means you can now run your stereo mix through analog gear. This is machine trained presets by different people around the world who ran this sine tone, sine sweep through their outboard gear. And so they picked up the distinct changes in the audio and they applied it to the machine learning. And that's what neural amp modeling is all about. So essentially you could run your drums and your whatever through anything: tape recorders, tape machines, compressors, MPCs, SP1200s. So it gets very deep. But I like the tape machine settings. Also too, I like also I like standard clip for drums. Now, FL Studio, we don't have those. So we have to just figure out a way for these drums to knock. So if you want your drums to knock in FL, the first thing you could try is Fruity Soft Clipper, but it has a very particular sound here. And we're gonna open up an EQ before the Soft Clipper and turn up the gain here. Now we could just do that, call it a day, but it sounds crumbly. So here's before. Kick sounds more round. Here's after our soft clipping. It doesn't necessarily make it better. It does make it cut through a little bit more, but it doesn't make it better. Do you like adding high into your drums? Not really. I actually like taking the high end away most of the time.
The freshest in all the four.
Did the poll? It didn't tell me the results of the poll. That is what it is.
The freshest in all the four.
All right, so that's how you can get that kind of crunch. Now, it's not similar. Again, there's two different processes. Another way you could do it is Fruity Limiter. And you could just go to the saturation knob.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. Got to connect your four.
Now you have to turn the ceiling up so that you're not compressing on top of
The
that.
freshest in all the.
The only thing is the saturation stops at 0. So anytime you push the gain into it, you're just basically just making it worse.
The freshest in all the four boroughs.
So I'm pretty sure this is an input gain, because if I turn this up,
The freshest in all the four boroughs.
yeah, it's definitely input gain. There's no output gain that I know of on this plugin. So we're going to go back to the EQ and then turn the volume back up.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. Got to connect your four boroughs. Throwing a rock in four boroughs. Then we took.
And basically we just need to make sure we're not clipping here. So those are two different ways to saturate your drums. Now, so let's play them back to back. Here's the first one. Very crunchy. That's why I said you can't just throw Fruity Soft Clipper on everything. It doesn't work. Now here's the saturator. It keeps that kick a little more round. So those are two different techniques you guys can mess with in FL Studio. Another way, which is super secret, which I told you guys as a thank you for staying here. I'm going to put you guys up on game. So here's what I use for my sound design. Let me make sure everybody's okay. Cool. Here's what I use for my sound design. I use Fruity Delay 3. Now, most people don't know you can turn down the dry level. You could turn down the feedback level. You could turn down the delay time, turn off tempo sync, and make sure this is at like basically 0. And everything else in this becomes an effect. So people don't know that the Fruity Limiter actually has a saturator built in right here. Just turn this up. You guys can hear that crunch. Just gonna blend this in. It also has a limiter. And then you can blend in the original signal. It's a little bit phasey though. That's the only problem though. So those are 3 different ways in FL Studio you can get that saturated tone. Let's see which one my ear gravitates towards the most. Fruity Soft Clipper just sounds a little too aggressive. I think I like the saturation of the Fruity Limiter. And lastly, Fruity Delay 3. What up, Radar? And now let's boost the EQ just a little bit. I think Delay 3 gives us the most dimension. Fruity Limiter gives us the best roundness, and Fruity Soft Clipper just gave us the scratchiest tone. So I'll play these again back to back. Here's Soft Clipper. To me, it just sounds a little too buzzy, a little too aggressive. Here's the Fruity Saturation. And last, let's use the Fruity Delay 3. Personally, my ear actually likes that tone a lot. And also you can you can also shape the tone. So my favorite frequencies, you guys could just copy these. These make the car vibrate at 75 Hertz and 60 Hertz. So you can move these to 75 Hertz. It just depends on where your kick is. Just through life, sound designing, mentors, Ken Lewis put me on in the early days onto mixing. So some notable people, Ken Lewis, Mixbus TV. Whoops, I spelled Mixbus TV. Who else is, there's Bob Ozinski. I'm saying that right? I don't know how to spell his name. Ozinski. Sorry, Bob Ozinski. I probably spelled that wrong. Who else is out there? Dave Pensato, back in the day. Just little tricks. I didn't really learn. I really learned from Ken Lewis and then Mixbus TV. Everybody else I kind of watched here and there. It wasn't like hardcore. But these are notable people. Who else teaches mixing? And then there was a dude, I forgot his name. He mixes Dua Lipa's vocals. I like his channel. I forgot his name. Forgive me, dude. But look up Dua Lipa vocal mixing. He does like long master classes where he shows you guys different pop techniques for vocals. What else? Who else is dope? Austin Hall from Make Pop Music is dope in general. Yeah, I don't watch too many people talk about mixing. Oh, freaking Eli, mixed by Eli. He's fire. And I know I'm missing somebody and it's gonna bother me, y'all. I'm so sorry. Wavy Wayne, I'm sure has dope tips. Help Me Devon. Yeah, I just don't watch mixing stuff like that because I look at mixing way different now. I don't look at it as like a technical thing. I look at it as like a sound design thing. So I just have a different view on mixing now. Anyhow, let's get back to this flow. So we can boost that 75 Hertz to 60 Hertz to boost up the low frequencies of that kick. $60 is more of like a rounded sub. $75 is more of like the bottom end of a kick. So it just depends on where your kick exists. On this one, it had both 60 and 75. So I usually go with the lowest frequency available. And that just adds that like final density to your drums most of the time. So here's before. All right, now let's turn this on. Here's after. See, now it has that thum, thum, that punch to it. All right, so that is the secret to drums using FL Studio stuff. Let's hear what else we got in this.
In all the 4 boroughs, got to connect your 4 boroughs.
There's really nothing to EQ on the sample. It's just good.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs, got to connect your 4 boroughs. Throwing a rock in 4 boroughs.
If you guys watch the vocal mixing masterclass, we did both compression and expansion, and It's a lot to explain in this video, so I just got to kind of give you the gist. The reason we're compressing is to pull everything more linear in terms of volume. Then we do expansion because we want the transient to have more body to it. And so it adds this lift to the vocal. So without it,
The freshest in all the,
it's almost like the words get lost.
the freshest in all the four boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your four boroughs. Throwing a rock in four boroughs. Then we took over the whole
All right, let's-
world.
Here's turning it on.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your four boroughs. Throwing a rock in four boroughs.
So that's the thing that kind of helps us sit on top of the beat. We're going to turn off the mixing that we did from that session and just try to copy. Again, it's not going to be a one-to-one. So we're going to go to the compressor mode and just simply compress this. On our comp, we compress 2 to 1 ratio, attack at 16 milliseconds, release is fast, and then at -17. I'm going to move quicker here because I don't want to keep repeating the same thing here. So -16-ish, we had a 2 to 1 ratio-ish, and then we had
The freshest in all the,
attack at 16 milliseconds.
the freshest in all the four boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your four boroughs. Throwing a rock.
Now on this compressor, I got to go lower with the threshold here.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your four boroughs.
So as you guys can see with this purple, we're just basically keeping those pointy parts a little less pointy. Next, let's open up another Fruity limiter and let's make this an expander. So let's go to ceiling, turn that up so that it doesn't hit 0, and go to compressor mode. We're going to pull the ratio to the left. This is expansion. And we want this to expand a little bit after the transient. So let's set it to about 60 milliseconds. Again, we're adding more like body to the sound here. We're boosting.
The freshest in all the four boroughs.
Yeah, a lot of people just look at the limiter for side chaining, but you could do it for a lot of stuff.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. That's
Now let's pull the threshold down.
the freshest in all the four boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your four boroughs. Throwing a,
And to exaggerate the volume, we could turn the ratio higher.
the freshest in all the four boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your four boroughs. Throwing a rock in four boroughs.
So now it feels more linear to the ear. So again, here's before.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your four boroughs. Throwing a rock in four boroughs. Then we took over the whole world. Around the world, around the world.
What up, drum? Let me solo this so you guys can hear.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your four boroughs.
All right, so here's the
Throwing a,
first compressor.
the freshest in all the four boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your four boroughs.
See how it squeezes down on the
Throwing a
vocal?
rock in four boroughs. Then we took over the whole world.
Thank you, HQ. Do you have any advice for struggling producers? Stop identifying as struggling. You're just a producer. Jay DeRue, thank you for your super chat. My bad. Dang, he even tried to super chat. The FL was frozen. Dang, I missed that whole super chat. That's what I get. Well, if you want the edited version of this masterclass, you got to go to busyworksbeats.com/black. And then we're going to edit this and put it up on the premium site. So yeah, that's that on that. What was I saying here? So basically, listen to how squashed it sounds.
The freshest in all the four boroughs.
Peace
That's
out.
that. Got to
Violet.
connect your four boroughs. Throwing a rock in four boroughs.
Now, this is a subtle detail,
Then-
but it's the detail that makes this vocal come alive. So
The freshest in all the four boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your four boroughs. Throwing a rock in four boroughs.
here's with the expansion.
Then we took over the whole world. The freshest in all the four boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your four boroughs. Throwing a rock in four boroughs. Then we took over the whole world.
See how the vocal feels more linear now because we're not just turning it down and compressing it. We're now turning it down and turning it up. So it's a very interesting thought process. But now let's add some compression to make those two things a little more cohesive. We don't need to add this compressor. I'm just kind of imitating what we had before.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your four boroughs. Throwing a rock in four boroughs. Then we took over the whole world. The freshest in all the four boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your four boroughs. Throwing a rock in four boroughs. Then we took over the whole world. The freshest in all the four boroughs. That's that.
It's not too much there. And then we added some kind of EQ to take out 1554. And that's because we had resonance. And with resonance, you usually have multiples. So 500, if this is the area where we have stuff we don't want,
The freshest in all the four boroughs.
just like that type of frequency,
The freshest in all the four boroughs.
that makes it sound terrible. So we're going to cut that out.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. Zesta.
Now, usually speaking, if you have a resonance point, you also have a harmonic of the resonance point. So you want to check multiples of 550. So 550 times 2 is 1100. So you want to check here. Check here, 1100-ish.
The freshest in all the four boroughs.
You get this. Okay, so that's another zone here. Now you don't want to overly cut here because then you are, just be careful not to overly cut. And then 550 times 3 would be like around 1500 or so. So let's boost up at 1500. We should hear the same issue.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. Zesta. Got to connect your four boroughs.
It's like this radio type sound. So let's just pull that down. Now the tricky part is now we have these overlapping cuts. It's hard to keep stuff not from taking out too much volume.
The freshest in all the four boroughs.
Let's do it before and after EQ.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. Zesta. Got to connect your four boroughs. Throwing a rock in four boroughs. Then we took over the whole world. The freshest in all the four boroughs. Zesta. Got to connect your four boroughs.
So see how taking out those like small zones made it feel like more clarity? Okay, so simply taking out resonance, it's almost like taking out a note from a chord. And when you take out the note from the chord, it changes the chord type. So, if I had to equate it to music. And lastly, we had a limiter where we're just basically just turning it up into the limiter.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. Zesta.
Now, one thing I do probably need to add to this mix is a potentially a high pass filter, because if I boost,
The freshest in all the four boroughs.
wait, let me turn this on. So if I boost this EQ, we should hear like the rumble from my mic.
The freshest.
See, hear this? Wait, let me see if I could. Let me exaggerate this.
The, fre-
So this is all the rumble from my AC unit.
the freshest in all the four boroughs. Zesta.
That so we need that filtered, or else it could stack up with the bass and get kind of nasty. So this only downside to this, it does change my tone because I'm a naturally lower speaking voice, where if you're a higher tone, it won't affect much of anything.
The freshest.
But for me, it does shape the tone.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. Zesta.
So we're basically cutting everything below 60 hertz.
The freshest in all.
Panning, we talked about how width is essentially the difference between left and right. So panning, the goal of panning is to create width, and you do that by creating different things on the left, different things on the right. I'm not normally panning hi-hats and panning kicks. I'm not panning anything. I'm thinking of things as a stereo field and less of like left, right. The only thing I really do with vocals is pan hard left or 50% left, 50% right, center on the vocals to create a wide effect.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. Zesta. Got to connect your four boroughs. Throwing a rock in four boroughs. Then we took over the whole world.
So here's before.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. Zesta. Got to connect your four boroughs. Throwing a rock in four boroughs. Then we took over the whole world. The freshest in all the four boroughs. Zesta. Got to connect your four boroughs. Throwing a rock in four boroughs. Then we took over the whole world.
Another thing I would add to this mix though is a de-esser, because it tends to be a little high frequency heavy. I'm not going to obsess about vocals on this one because you guys voted for, you want to see how to mix the entire beat. But so far we mixed the kicks, we mixed the vocals, the drums I meant to say, the vocals.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. Zesta. Got to connect.
That's really all this beat needs. It doesn't need much of anything else.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. Zesta. Got to connect your.
Forget what this is for, this kick.
The
I think.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. Zesta. Got to connect your four boroughs.
Okay, I think the kick is so this is a special mixing technique for like 90s drums, because sometimes the drums aren't thick enough. So here's the kick by itself. So what I tend to do as a sound design technique is I'll run a sine wave with the same pattern as the kick. And I basically set up a Fruity Peak controller. and that is controlling the volume knob of the far left fader here. If you right click, link to controller, I have the Fruity P controller controlling this. So basically every time the kick hits, it turns this up. Let me turn the kick back on. Where'd our kick go? Wait, what happened to the kick, y'all? The kick disappeared. I'm on pattern mode this way. Okay.
The freshest in all the four.
So now when the kick hits, it turns up that bass and it thickens out the kick. So here's before. Here's after. Little subtle detail, but that's great for like acoustic drums, and for hip hop drums that are a little bit thinner, you could add that density with the sub oscillator.
The freshest in all the four boroughs.
Now in terms of the total mix here, let's see what I even did to this mix.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your four boroughs. Throwing a rock in four boroughs.
So like I said, if the mix is not good to begin with, if the song is not good to begin with, the mix is not going to make it good. The mix will make it sound better, but it won't make your song good. So what we're going to do here, hopefully this saves and doesn't crash FL. We're going to think of a way to add density. Now I'm going to go outside of the FL Studio stock plugins on this one and show you guys a free plugin. If FL doesn't crash, it looks like it's about to crash though. So FL crashed on us. It crashed on us. All right, so let's just restart. All right, give me a sec, guys. I got to load up the project. All right, my bad, y'all. Sorry about that gap in audio. So my mic is up in Logic. So basically, trying to find the project we had, but I saved it, but it was as a duplicate. So now I got to figure out which folder this was even in so we can open up this project. But yeah, if you guys have questions real quick, let's do a little miniature Q&A. I'm not going to spend too much time on Q&A because it kills the flow. So what is this? Hold up, y'all. All right, so boom, boom. But let's do a little miniature Q&A here. Why is this? Check. All right, stuff is just acting weird. Whoa, got two mics going. All right, stuff is just acting weird today, you guys. Weird. Default, no wonder. All right, now we're good. Okay, so let's see what computer. I'm on a Mac Mini. Mac Mini M4 Pro, 2 terabytes of space, 24 gigs of RAM. I think it's a unified RAM and VRAM, so they're the same thing. HQ says, what are good VSTs for vocals? Waves has some pretty good ones. You want to watch my vocal masterclass from yesterday about vocals. I cover all the waves. Basically, RComp, RVox, Man, what else did I even use from Waves? Those were pretty much the main ones. And just a de-esser of some sort. I like FabFilter's de-esser, but you can use whatever you want. The problem, have you, no, cool. All right, so I appreciate you guys being so patient. Let's hop straight back into it. So we left off during the mixing of the entire track. And let's just start from scratch. Sorry, all this live production stuff takes a lot of stuff. Okay, there we go. All right, so now we're back in FL Studio. We're mixing. So we covered in this one how to mix vocals.
The freshest.
Okay, now there is a little tone in here I don't like.
The freshest in all.
It's like the
fresh.
Now normally I would just add some kind of multi-band compressor as a like to take care of that general zone. This does not come with FL. I'm just showing you.
The freshest in.
Let's turn this on.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your 4 boroughs.
So this is where that zone gets a little aggressive, and I would compress that.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your 4 boroughs. Throwing a rock in 4 boroughs.
So like I said, when you compress sounds, you bring up more problems most of the time.
The freshest in all the 4.
I don't know why this is so loud.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your 4 boroughs. Throwing a rock in 4 boroughs. Then we took over the whole world.
So I think using this EQ made stuff sound quirky and awkward. So I'm actually going to take this EQ off.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your 4 boroughs. Throwing a rock in 4 boroughs. Then we took over the whole world. Around the world.
So again, that's that push-pull thing where we have to go back and forth with the harmonics. We're not going to waste time doing that today. Main things though, you learned how to mix your drums. You learned how to mix vocals using stock plugins. There are some problem areas with that vocal specifically, but it's going to take up too much time. And then we're going to mix this as a whole.
The freshest in all the 4.
First thing I normally do is add some kind of saturation. Let's do Fruity Limiter and try out the saturation knob.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your 4 boroughs.
Now, sometimes it can make your track sound a little too limited in terms of the dynamic, so I like to mess with that. We can also mess with Fruity, delay 3, turn the dry.
The freshest.
Okay, turn the dry level down, turn the tempo sync all the way down, turn the feedback all the way down, and mess with the saturation knob. So as you guys can hear, my voice gets more aggressive. That's what we're doing to the signal.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your 4 boroughs. Throwing a rock in.
So we don't need to push that too hard. It is a little bit bitier now. The next thing I usually do is add some kind of compression. This track does not really need compression. I don't like to use FL Studio stock compressors. I just don't think they sound good. But you guys can mess with it. You can turn the ratio up.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs.
And usually my compressors are set to at least a 30 millisecond of attack, 100 millisecond release.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your 4 boroughs.
So just subtle volume control. And then from here, you know, I add more density using mid-side compression, but FL doesn't have this. So we're going to use a plugin called TDR Kotelnikov. We're going to use this. So basically there is a dry mix level. You could blend this in.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. That's that.
And then turn the compressor on. So we're blending the compressor with the dry signal.
The freshest in all the 4.
And we're trying to compress about 3 dB or so. Now, when you blend the dry signal in, you can compress even more than 3 dB.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your 4 boroughs. Throwing a rock in 4 boroughs. Then we took over the whole world.
So now the track is like you could feel the head bob effect kind of.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your 4 boroughs. Throwing a rock in 4 boroughs. Then we took over the whole world.
So that's how you get that head bob effect. And lastly, we could add that Fruity Limiter. Same deal here. Turn the ceiling up, compressor on, threshold over here, ratio to the left.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your 4 boroughs.
And that's how we add that like head bob effect where you feel like you're falling into the beat.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your 4 boroughs. Throwing a rock in 4 boroughs.
Lastly, let's add that emphasizer plugin here, or emphasis.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. That's that. Got to connect your 4 boroughs. throwing a rock in 4 boroughs. Then we took over the whole world. The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. Zest-I got to connect in 4 boroughs. Throwing a rock in 4 boroughs. Then we took over the whole world. Around the world, around the world. Oh. You know I did it in my own lane, with my own flame. Played the rock like I play my own game. Feeling like Rich Porter, New York by the water. Ice cold, need a sauna. If you touch it, you a goner. You already know the name. Dipset is the game. Hopping out Bentleys with 10 chains.
So again, I'm gonna add a plugin that's not FL Studio. We're gonna add a de-esser here because this just needs a little bit of a de-esser.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. Zest-I got to connect in 4 boroughs. Throwing a rock in 4 boroughs. The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. Zest-I got to connect in 4 boroughs. Throwing a rock in 4 boroughs. Then we took over the whole world. Around the world, around the world. Oh. You know I did it in my own lane, with my own flame. Played the rock like I.
There's only one frequency I don't like about the vocal, and it's like this telephone type frequency. So we did too many EQ cuts to where it starts to shape the sound a little too aggressively. So I'm going to try to target only the one frequency I hear.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. Zest-I got to connect in 4 boroughs. Throwing a rock in 4 boroughs.
It's somewhere around 1400. It's just too loud.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. Zest-I got to connect in 4 boroughs. Throwing a rock in 4 boroughs. Then we took over the whole world. Around the world, around the world. Oh. You know I did it in my own lane, with my own flame. Played the rock like I play my own game. Feeling like Rich Porter, New York by the water. Ice cold, need a sauna. If you touch it, you a goner. You already know the name. Dipset is the game. Hopping out Bentleys with 10 chains. Around the world, around the world, around the world. Around the world, around the world, around the world.
I'm going to take off the delay.
The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. Zest-I got to connect in 4 boroughs. Throwing a rock in 4 boroughs. Then we took over the whole world. Around the world, around the world. Oh. You know I did it in my own lane, with my own flame. Played the rock like I play my own game. Feeling like Rich Porter, New York by the water. Ice cold, need a sauna. If you touch it, you a goner. You already know the name. Dipset is the game. Hopping out Bentleys with 10 chains. Around the world, around the world, around the world. Around the world, around the world, around the world. The freshest in all the 4 boroughs. Zest-I got to connect in 4 boroughs. Throwing a rock in 4 boroughs. Then we took over the whole world.
All right, so let's play the before just so people understand where we came from. Here's before.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. Zest I got to connect in four boroughs. Throwing a rock in four boroughs. Then we took over the whole world. Around the world. The freshest in all the four boroughs. Zest I got to connect.
Wait, one of these plugins sounds like it's filtered. Let's figure out what happened here.
The freshest in
I think it's this.
the freshest in all the four.
All right, sorry, y'all. I forgot this had a bunch of stuff on it. Take that off. All right, so let's do this one more again. Let's highlight all these channels. Control A and turn these off.
The freshest in all the four boroughs. Zest I got to connect in four boroughs. Throwing a rock in four boroughs. Then we took over the whole world. Around the world, around the world. You know I did it in my own lane, with my own flame. Played the rock like I play my own game. Feeling like the freshest in all the four boroughs. Zest I got to connect in four boroughs. Throwing a rock in four boroughs. Then we took over the whole world. Around the world, around the world. You know I did it in my own lane, with my own flame. Played the rock like I play my own game. Feeling like Rich Porter, New York by the water. Ice cold, need a sauna. If you touch it, you a goner. You already know the name. Dipset is the game. Hopping out Bentleys with 10 chains. Around the world, around the world, around the world, around the world, around the world.
The fact that they could tell Telnikov plugin is free is insane. This thing sounds really good. It even has like you could compress just the side or you can press just the middle. This gets really nice. I like that. So, man, I don't know if we have time to cover the last track, which is an R&B track. It's pretty much the same concepts over and over again, but hopefully you guys are seeing how mixing is not this cookie cutter, learn one thing, do this specific thing. It's a lot of thought, a lot of reasoning behind what you do. So if you guys want to learn the concepts and components you have to learn over different songs, go to busyworksbeats.com/black. We're actually doing an end of the year deal called Black Box Bundle. I'll show you guys what it looks like. It's so massive in terms of value that I'm going to have to give you guys the gist because I don't want to stress my voice here. So here, the Black Box Bundle is at busyworksbeats.com/black. It has over 3,000 sounds, 4 plugins, Halo 3D, Hercules for pads and bass. Halo 3D has like keys and pads, and Helios, which is the Serum 2 bank. And we have another plugin called Hypnos for more like key sounds. So those have 1,000 presets that you could tweak. Then we have over 3,000 sounds like one shots, guitar loops, vocal packs, MIDI pack, all types of stuff for hip hop, trap, R&B. And then we have 85 courses. It keeps increasing every single day. So we have 85 courses, guys, 85. You get access for a one-time fee. If you were to go to Full Sail, for example, which I have spoken at, I think, was it twice? Did I go to Full Sail twice? I want to say twice. Yeah, I spoke at Full Sail twice. And you guys are looking at $40,000 a year for their tuition for 1 year, okay? And I'm teaching the kids at Full Sail. They're coming to me for information. All right, so I'm pennies on the dollar compared to $40,000. $197 one-time payment. You get everything for everything we release in the future. You get all the courses for that. So this is called the Black Box Bundle. Anytime I update it, you guys get the free update for life. And just go to busyworksbeats.com/black to learn more. It's a lot in here and almost too much to cover. But if you guys want to go look at the course list, go to busyworksbeats.com/premium. We're also doing a 50% off for the end of the year and for Black Friday and everything. So go to busyworksbeats.com/premium if you just want courses. We have thousands of testimonials. Here's one from a Grammy winner named Link Music.
Hey, for sure, man. Blessing talking to you, man. You're the OG, man. I used to like watch all your videos back in the day, bro. It's crazy. You're the gold, man.
So he's, got plaques on plaques on plaques, plaques on plaques on plaques, and he's a Grammy winner. Shout out to him. Also to Slim Farrell's a Grammy winner, and he's worked with Travis Scott, Chris Brown. He said, legend started years ago by watching your tutorials. So shout out to Slim Farrell for showing some love. And we want to shout him out for his success. And there's a whole hour video of just every testimonial you could think of that works. Albums are just gold. Or whatever. So just tons of testimonials in this video if you guys want more stories. And what else is in here? So these are just the new courses that we've added. We've added 4, 8, 12, 16 new courses. 16 added. Okay. Faceless Type Beat channel. This is for people who are trying to get into business. This is the perfect one for you to learn online business. Everything else is like dependent on what skill set you're looking for. So it's just so much in here. A sample course, composition course, Suno Studio for those who like Suno, how to build your online business, drum patterns course, Logic Pro beat mixing course, mastering course, 808 mixing, Logic Pro vocal mix. And I'm a sound designer as well. So when I say 808 mixing, I'm not just going to be like, throw this plugin on. I'm going to show you guys to the core of what makes an 808 sound like an 808. Because I'm a sound designer. I make my own 808s. Logic Pro beat making, producer pathway, how to make soul beats, chord codes, MIDI melody, masterclasses, sound design 101. And we have all types of stuff from music theory. Look at all these music theory courses, beat making courses, all of these, how to mix like the pros, all of these. And then you got the online business training as well. So you pretty much get the most well-rounded education you could find on music production outside of musicianship. So it's the only thing I don't teach is sheet music, recording, and like how to play piano like a musician. That's what I don't teach. But one day maybe we'll offer that. I'm not sure. For now, we don't have that right now. So it's a $147 one-time payment. You get access to the courses for a lifetime. Anytime we release new courses, you get access to that. Yes, we do have a general vault for project files. And then some courses we specifically only have project files for that course. So yes, not every video though. I want to be clear. Not every single video has a project file. But the ones that need a project file generally have a project file. Does it include videos? Yes. You're talking about with this black box? Yes. All right, y'all. I got to preserve my voice. I appreciate you guys hanging in there for that 30 minutes of just staring at the fruity delay. Sorry about that. Or the patcher. But I'll edit that out in the final version. We'll put this up in our premium section. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching this game from BusyWorksBeats.com. Peace out, guys. Oh, also, if you want free bonuses, so even if you don't have money right now, it's no big deal. It's really just here to show you guys how deep music production goes. Go to BusyWorksBeats.com/FL Studio. We redid the page so it looks cooler. Actually, go to BusyWorksBeats.com/BetterBeatMaker. Here's what the page looks like. If you want to learn more, this is a free FL Studio course with 12 hours going through drum patterns, music theory, general production. All right, just go to BusyWorksBeats.com/BetterBeatMaker. And then you guys can learn a lot more there. All right, y'all, I'm not going to hold you too much.